The silly boy was tricked into bed. The young couple targeted Li Shazi for the sake of their offspring, tricked him into coming to their house for dinner, and added drugs to the food to enhance sexual pleasure. The idiot suddenly ran away, and this matter must not be spread out. If the villagers knew about it, how could he face people in the future? In a hurry, Zhao Cheng picked up a stick, rushed up and hit Li Feng's head hard. Li Feng fell to the ground. Not only did he get the Shennong Treasure Book passed down by his ancestors, but he also regained his consciousness due to a blessing in disguise. Chapter 1. Watching his wife, Shudoni, walk into the back room with a sultry expression as she clung to the arm of the village idiot, Li Feng, Zhao Cheng's heart burned with frustration. His wife, Shudoni, was the most beautiful woman in Ping Shui village. She had the looks, the curves, everything. She was well endowed, and her skin was fair and smooth. Countless men, both young and old, had their eyes on her. Yet, unexpectedly, it was the village idiot, Li Feng, who got to be the first to win her over. Inside the room, Shudoni's voice suddenly rang out. 2 years ago, Zhao Cheng had gone to work out of town, where he was injured in an accident that left him impotent. Since then, Shudoni had been living like a widow, her life stagnant, until now. Hearing his wife's voice, Zhao Cheng's eyes bulged with rage. The couple had plotted to borrow some money from Li Feng, so they invited him over for dinner, laced his food with drugs. But before Zhao Cheng could fully process this, another voice came from the room, but it wasn't Shudoni's, it was Li Feng's. Li Feng, bare-chested, ran out of the room, panic written all over his face. Cheng Ji. Sis. She bit me. As he spoke, Li Feng tried to run toward the door. Seeing this, Zhao Cheng panicked. This whole scheme couldn't he get out, or the villagers would find out, and his reputation would be ruined forever. In a desperate move, Zhao Cheng grabbed a stick and rushed forward, smashing it into the back of Li Feng's head. Li Feng collapsed instantly. When he lost consciousness, Li Feng found himself in a long, strange dream, where he met his ancestors. Li Feng, I am your ancestor. Seeing the hardships of your future generations, I have decided to grant you the Shennong Bible to aid you. I hope you can carry on the legacy of the Shennong lineage. When Li Feng woke up, he found himself in a strange room. Looking around, he realized that this was his neighbor, Zhao Cheng's house. He slapped his head, slowly recalling the events. Li Feng had been the top student in the village, destined to attend a prestigious medical university in the provincial capital, with a bright future ahead. But just before graduation, he had an accident that left him mentally impaired, and everyone in the village started calling him Li the Fool. He had drifted in a daze for 2 years, until Zhao Cheng hit him on the head. To his surprise, Li Feng had met his ancestors in his dream, received the Shennong Bible, and regained his senses. Rubbing his aching head, Li Feng wasn't sure whether to thank Zhao Cheng or curse him for being so brutal. Fengzi, you're finally awake. Thank goodness. I thought something had happened to you. Shudoni said, running over with a face full of joy. Li Feng immediately panicked, not knowing where to put his hands. To be fair, Shudoni had a truly fantastic figure, and she smelled really good too. Suddenly, Li Feng remembered that just before he lost consciousness, he had been with Shudoni in the back room. As a young man full of vigor, his mind wandered to inappropriate thoughts. Noticing his reaction, Shudoni smirked and teased, "You, Li the Fool, usually so clueless, and now you're finally awake." Li Feng quickly pushed her away. "Sis. Don't do this." Shudoni pouted, "What do you mean, don't do this? You've already seen me, and I've already seen you." Li Feng had no choice but to point at his head and said, "Doni sis, Cheng Ji hit me on the head, and I woke up. I'm not a fool anymore." When Shudoni heard this, her face went blank. "What did you say? You're not a fool anymore?" Li Feng nodded seriously, "That's right. I'm not a fool anymore." Shudoni's pale face instantly turned bright red. She instinctively took 2 steps back. Before, she had been so bold in front of Li Feng because she thought he was a fool. But now, after the hit from Zhao Cheng, he was suddenly no longer a fool. She felt incredibly awkward. Just as she was about to say something to break the tension, Zhao Cheng walked in. Seeing that Li Feng had woken up, he immediately urged, "Domni, the fool is awake. While the drug is still in effect, hurry up and take care of him. Otherwise, we'll have to ask him to come back again to borrow some more money." When Zhao Cheng mentioned the money, Shudoni's face turned so red that she didn't know how to face Li Feng. Li Feng cleared his throat. Cheng Ji, your stick really knocked me back to my senses. I'm not a fool anymore. This time, Zhao Cheng was the one who froze. Bro. You're not a fool anymore? Zhao Cheng stammered. Li Feng smiled and nodded, confirming it. Moments later, Li Feng, now dressed, sat on the sofa in the living room with Zhao Cheng and his wife. Seeing Li Feng without a trace of foolishness on his face, the couple didn't know what to say. The air was thick with awkwardness. Fengzi, me and your sis just wanted a child. We didn't have any bad intentions. Zhao Cheng spoke up first, but his voice sounded dry. Shudoni, her face still flushed, nodded. Yes, there's something you don't know. 2 years ago, Cheng Ji was hurt while working, and now he can't, you know. Li Feng's face showed realization. No wonder they wanted to borrow his money. It turned out Zhao Cheng couldn't perform the deed anymore. He stood up and said, Cheng Ji, don't sis, forget about what happened before. I won't tell anyone. We've been neighbors for so many years, you know what kind of person I am. Anyway, I'm leaving now. Let us just consider today a dream we all shared, and forget about it when we wake up. Before the couple could respond, Li Feng walked out in big strides. Looking at Li Feng's retreating figure, Shudoni couldn't help but feel a bit reluctant. With his senses restored, Li Feng was back to being the tall, handsome, and talented guy he used to be. If only she could get him into bed, she'd be more than willing to pursue him. Too bad, there was no chance now. Suddenly, Zhao Cheng slapped the table with a look of determination. This matter can't end like this. Li Feng saw your body, so he has to help us. Anyway, this is not over. Chapter 2. At this moment, Li Feng had no idea that Zhao Cheng and Shudoni hadn't given up on their plan to have him help them conceive. When he returned to his own home, looking at the dilapidated house and the messy yard, Li Feng fell into a deep silence. He couldn't believe that after just 2 years, his home had fallen into such disrepair. He sighed and pushed the door into the living room. The living room was even more run down. Aside from an old dining table and 2 broken-legged chairs, there wasn't a single piece of decent furniture. Looking at the leftover cornmeal buns from yesterday's meal and the moldy pickled vegetables, Li Feng's face darkened with anger. This was the work of his second uncle, Li Zhongde. After Li Feng had become a fool, with his parents long deceased, there was no one to take care of him. In front of the village elders, his family's 10 acres of land had been transferred to his second uncle, Li Zhongde, under the condition that Li Zhongde would provide Li Feng with 3 meals a day. Little did Li Feng know, this was the way his second uncle took care of him. Eating cornmeal buns and pickled vegetables, it was a meal so miserable that even beggars would eat better. What made Li Feng the angriest was that every time, Li Zhongde would send a basket of buns, saying it would be his food for the whole week. He never cared about anything else. If Li Feng ate too fast, he'd have to go hungry for the next 2 days. And if the weather was too hot and the buns turned moldy, he had to eat them anyway, or else he'd go hungry. Fortunately, Li Feng was strong, otherwise, he would have been tortured to death by Li Zhongde and his wife a long time ago. Li Feng took a deep breath, forcing himself to suppress the anger rising within him. He had just regained his senses and wasn't ready to confront Li Zhongde yet. In a few days, he would definitely take back his family's 10 acres of land. At this moment, Li Feng's mind wandered back to the Shennong Bible his ancestors had passed down to him in his dream. Although called the Shennong Bible, it contained knowledge about everything traditional Chinese medicine, farming techniques, animal husbandry, martial arts. Just thinking about the Shennong Bible, Li Feng felt a surge of confidence. He had originally studied traditional Chinese medicine, and with the Shennong Bible now in his hands, he would undoubtedly become a renowned doctor one day. But for now, there was an important task at hand. He needed to clean up his home. His current house was far too dirty and chaotic. It was impossible to live in until it was tidied up. Li Feng worked for the entire afternoon and didn't finish cleaning until evening. Looking at the now tidy and clean yard, Li Feng wiped the sweat off his forehead. Though it was still a little rundown, at least it was livable now. He smelled the sweat on his body and quickly took a cold shower to freshen up. After his shower, Li Feng's stomach growled loudly. That's when he realized he hadn't prepared dinner yet. The half-eaten cornmeal buns on the table were his last bit of food, and if he calculated correctly, it would be 2 more days before Li Zhongde brought him more. Li Feng was wondering where he might get a meal when suddenly, there was a knock at the door. He opened it and was surprised to see Shudoni, his next-door neighbor, standing there. "Doni sis, what's up?" Li Feng's expression was a little awkward. After all, he had just seen Shudoni's body earlier that day, and they had almost gone to bed together. But Shudoni acted like nothing was out of the ordinary. She flipped her hair and smiled warmly. "Fengzi, you haven't had dinner yet, right? I brought you some food." Li Feng then noticed the food container she was holding. "Doni sis, that's too kind of you." Li Feng was both surprised and pleased. It was like getting a pillow when you were just about to fall asleep. He reached out to take the container, but Shudoni didn't hand it over. Instead, she walked past him and into the house. "Wow! Fengzi, you're so diligent. In just half a day, you've cleaned up the house this well." Shudoni exclaimed, clearly impressed. Since the two families lived next door to each other, Shudoni knew exactly what Li Feng's home looked like. When she and Zhao Cheng had plotted to have Li Feng help them with their scheme earlier, they had even made sure to get him to take a shower first. Before Li Feng could respond, Shudoni had already stepped into the living room. She placed the food container on the table, then walked around, nodding approvingly. "Fengzi, you really like to keep things clean. Your house was such a mess before, but now look at it, so neat." Li Feng followed her into the room. "Doni sis, don't flatter me. My house is like this no matter how much I clean, it's still not as good as yours." "Who says that? I think your place is quite nice. In fact, I was even thinking of staying the night here." Shudoni gave him a teasing look, her eyes full of an unspoken allure. Her seductive glance made Li Feng's heart skip a beat, even though he prided himself on his self-control. He gave a nervous laugh. "Sis, don't joke around. Thanks for bringing me dinner. I'll wash the container and return it to you tomorrow." But Shudoni wasn't in a hurry. She walked up to him, and as she approached, a delicate fragrance wafted into his senses. Don't trouble yourself. I'll stay and eat with you. I'll wash the container too. You just enjoy," Shudoni said in a soft voice. As she said the word enjoy, she deliberately tapped her finger on Li Feng's chest, sending a tingling sensation through him. What was worse, Li Feng suddenly realized that the buttons on her shirt had come undone. From his vantage point, he could see more than he expected, catching glimpses of hidden allure. "Doni sis, you don't need to bother. Why don't you just head back?" Li Feng quickly took 2 steps back, his caution rising. He was beginning to sense the situation. Shudoni wasn't here just to bring him dinner, she was here with a different purpose. Seeing Li Feng trying to push her away, Shudoni gave up all pretense and moved in closer. Now the distance between them was dangerously small, almost like they were about to press against each other. "Fengzi, let us not beat around the bush. I'll be straightforward with you," Shudoni said in a low voice. "Cheng Ji can't do it anymore, and we don't have any children. Do you know what the villagers are saying about us? They say Cheng Ji is taking up space without doing anything, and that I'm like a barren hen. I'm not asking for much, just for you to leave me a child. Please, pity us. I'm begging you." With those words, Shudoni suddenly threw herself into Li Feng's arms, her little hands exploring his body. Li Feng, knowing better, immediately pushed her away. "Doni sis, don't be impulsive. This is not a small matter. We still don't know if Cheng Ji will agree." Just as he spoke, Zhao Cheng's voice suddenly rang out at the door. "I agree." Li Feng was startled and turned around to find Zhao Cheng standing there, though he hadn't noticed when he arrived. "Fengzi, what your sis said is exactly what I mean. Please, help us," Zhao Cheng said, his face full of pleading. Li Feng wasn't sure how to respond. Suddenly, the Shennong Bible flashed through his mind, and an idea formed. Cough, cough. "Cheng Ji, Doni sis. I'm a graduate of the medical university, right? The condition Cheng Ji has, maybe I can cure him," Li Feng said, clearing his throat. Chapter 3. As soon as Li Feng spoke, Zhao Cheng and his wife were stunned. "What? Fengzi, you can cure my illness?" Zhao Cheng exclaimed. Li Feng nodded. "I'm about 80% sure, but it will take some time. We can't start treatment right away." He had just received the Divine Farmer's Bible and hadn't yet tried using the medical methods in it, so he still needed to practice. However, Shudoni's face showed doubt. She seemed to not fully trust him. Zhao Cheng wasn't he a fool? He immediately said, Fengzi, you can't drag this on forever. How about this, half a month? If you don't cure me by then, you'll have to leave a child for your sister-in-law. Don't forget, today you saw your sister-in-law's body. If you don't leave her with an heir, how will she face people in the future? Li Feng was immediately speechless. What did this have to do with him? It was clearly their own doing. Fine, I'll do as you say. In half a month, I'll do my best to cure your illness. Li Feng said seriously. He had full confidence in the Divine Farmer's Bible. It was passed down from his ancestors. Good. It's settled then. If this works, I won't treat you unfairly. Zhao Cheng said, full of excitement. With Li Feng's assurance, Zhao Cheng hurriedly left with his wife. Before leaving, Shudoni glanced back at Li Feng. Li Feng was stunned. Why hadn't he noticed before how fierce Shudoni was? Once they were gone, Li Feng, who had been starving, eagerly opened the lunch box. There was a plate of spicy stir-fried meat and a plate of sour and spicy shredded potatoes, appetizing and satisfying. Li Feng eagerly began to eat. Shudoni's cooking was surprisingly good. After finishing the meal and cleaning the lunchbox, Li Feng returned to his bed to rest. By rest, he meant familiarizing himself with the Divine Farmer's Bible in his mind. The first section of the Divine Farmer's Bible was all about the way of medicine. It contained countless records of traditional Chinese medicine and medicinal herbs. As Li Feng tried to recall this knowledge, his mind exploded with a burst of information. Traditional Chinese medicine knowledge poured into his head. In the next instant, he lost consciousness. When he woke up the next morning, Li Feng was astonished to find that he had already fully integrated the medical knowledge. It could be said that he was now a true divine doctor, a real, certified divine doctor. However, the joy of becoming a divine doctor was soon dampened by hunger, and Li Feng cursed his second uncle, Li Zhongde, in his mind. After a simple wash, Li Feng grabbed a basket and went to the back mountain. At this time of year, the back mountain had many wild fruits, so he planned to pick some to satisfy his hunger and think about his future path. Li Feng had medical skills, so as long as he encountered the right opportunity, making money would no longer be a problem. The back mountain was full of wildflowers, and the air was incredibly fresh. Li Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. This fresh air was something city dwellers could only dream of. He didn't exert much effort and managed to pick quite a few wild fruits, which should be enough for 2 days. Li Feng didn't bother washing them. He simply rubbed them on his clothes and started eating. Not bad, the taste was quite good, though a bit sour and astringent. After finishing the wild fruits, he descended the mountain. When passing by the small forest at the edge of the village, Li Feng suddenly heard a faint cry for help in the distance. He stopped, pricked up his ears, and listened carefully. Sure enough, a woman was calling for help. Since receiving the inheritance from his ancestors, Li Feng's physical condition had greatly improved, and his hearing had become much sharper. Without this, he wouldn't have been able to hear the cries for help. He quickly rushed toward the direction of the sound, and when he arrived, what he saw instantly enraged him. There, the notorious bully of the village, Zhao Taigang, with a lecherous smile, was grabbing a beautiful girl's arm and tearing at her clothes. The girl was very fair, with delicate features, obviously a natural beauty. Her floral shirt had been torn into several pieces, and her snowy skin was half exposed. The girl was crying, her pretty face covered in tears. Wang Huan, just give in to me. If you agree to be with me, I'll forgive the 5,000 yuan you owe me. Zhao Taigang leered. Woo-woo. Let go of me, help. Woo-woo. Wang Huan struggled weakly. But her strength was no match for Zhao Taigang's. As her top was about to be torn off, Wang Huan closed her eyes in despair. Just then, an angry shout rang out. Zhao Taigang! Stop! Wang Huan instinctively opened her eyes and saw a handsome young man rushing toward them. The young man's face looked somewhat familiar. It's you? Li Shazi? Zhao Taigang said in surprise. Wang Huan then remembered that this young man was the infamous Li Shazi from the village. She had seen him a few times before. Since she was afraid the fool might suddenly attack her, she had always kept her distance from Li Feng. Li Feng didn't say a word, but just charged in front of the two of them and punched Zhao Taigang hard in the face. Zhao Taigang screamed in pain and staggered back 2 steps. The girl he was holding, Wang Huan, was freed. Terrified, Wang Huan quickly hid behind Li Feng, trembling like a poor stray cat. Damn it! Li Shazi, how dare you hit me? You're looking for death! Zhao Taigang roared in fury. Normally, he was the one bullying Li Feng in the village, but now Li Feng had actually dared to hit him. Zhao Taigang hadn't realized yet that Li Feng had already regained his sanity. Furious, he rushed forward and threw a punch at Li Feng's face. Normally, Li Feng would have been no match for Zhao Taigang's large and imposing frame. But today was different. In Li Feng's eyes, Zhao Taigang's movements were as slow as a turtle, so he just moved aside and easily dodged the punch. Then, Li Feng delivered a knee strike straight to Zhao Taigang's groin, causing Zhao Taigang to scream like a pig being slaughtered. Arr! It hurts! Li Shazi, you bastard! You ruined my balls! Zhao Taigang screamed in agony while clutching his crotch, stumbling away in a frantic escape. Li Feng looked at him with disdain, not even bothering to chase after him. At this point, Wang Huan, still trembling, stepped forward with a nervous expression. Thank you for saving me. Noticing her reaction, Li Feng couldn't help but chuckle. Don't worry. I've recovered my sanity, I'm not the fool I used to be. Wang Huan looked surprised. Really? Then I can relax. As soon as she spoke, she realized she had misspoken. Her fair face flushed bright red, and she lowered her head like a child who had made a mistake. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I just wanted to thank you. Li Feng smiled and waved his hand. No need to be so polite. I don't even know your name yet. Just as Wang Huan was about to introduce herself, she suddenly trembled, her face turning pale. Her lips turned purple, and she pressed her hand to her chest, trembling uncontrollably. Li Feng was shocked and immediately recognized that she was having a heart attack. Chapter 4. As the saying goes, the heart governs the blood. Wang Huan's heart pulse was in trouble and the blood was not supplied. This resulted in her pale face and purple lips, which is a symptom of chest pain. It is recorded in Shennong's collection that if this situation occurs, it can be treated with silver needles. Li Feng immediately helped Wang Huan lie flat on the ground and quickly unbuttoned her collar. When I unbuttoned the second button, a beautiful scene appeared before my eyes. If we continue, we will have to unbutton Wang Huan's shirt completely. But this is not the worst thing. The worst thing is that Li Feng doesn't have any silver needles with him. It's too late to go back and get the silver needle now. The only way is to press the acupoints with your hands and push the palace to activate blood circulation. But wouldn't this be taking advantage of Wang Huan? While Li Feng was hesitating, he saw that Wang Huan's lips became even darker and purpler, and it was obvious that the condition was urgent. If we don't rescue him in time, it might be too late. Li Feng made a prompt decision and spoke to Wang Huan in a deep voice. Girl, I'm sorry. I have to save your life first. As soon as he finished speaking, he continued to unbutton Wang Huan's third button. Wang Huan was speechless at this moment, but her eyes were full of shyness. Even her originally pale cheeks were faintly flushed. She is still a girl, and her innocent body has never been seen by a man. But in order to survive, Wang Huan could only suppress her shyness and close her eyes, allowing the man in front of her to do what he wanted. Compared to Wang Huan, who was so shy that she closed her eyes, Li Feng had a calm face. After undressing Wang Huan, he quickly began to press acupoints on her for treatment. The scenery in front of you is so beautiful that any man will feel moved when he sees it. Li Feng was naturally no exception, but in order to save people, he could only try his best to focus on his task. Li Feng quickly pressed his hands around Wang Huan's chest, including Tanzhong, Zhongting, Jiwei, Juk. If there was a famous doctor here, he would definitely exclaim in surprise when he saw the order in which Li Feng pressed the acupoints. This technique turned out to be the long-lost 7-star resurrection needle technique. The 7-star resurrection needle is specifically used to treat chest pain and has the effect of bringing the dead back to life, but it has long been lost. This magical acupuncture technique is recorded in Shennong's book. There is not only the 7-star resurrection needle. The Shennong collection records hundreds of acupuncture techniques alone. Picking out any one of them is enough to make a doctor ecstatic. With the pressing of acupoints one by one, Wang Huan's originally purple lips gradually recovered. The pale cheeks gradually became more rosy. Seeing that Wang Huan had improved, Li Feng grabbed her little hand and pushed her uterus to promote blood circulation, while pressing her Neiguan acupoint hard. Just as Li Feng pressed the Neiguan acupoint, Wang Huan suddenly moaned and her eyes opened involuntarily. The two of you looked at each other, both of you stunned. The next second, Wang Huan suddenly screamed and put her hands on her chest. But how could her little hands block so many beautiful views? Realizing this, Wang Huan screamed again, quickly got up, and quickly buttoned her clothes with her back to Li Feng. Li Feng came back to his senses and couldn't help but laugh dryly. Girl, I was just trying to save you, please forgive me if I offended you. Wang Huan had her back to Li Feng, her fair face already blushing with shame. Not only was Li Feng able to see her innocent body, but the other party even took action. However, Wang Huan also knew in her heart that Li Feng was not trying to take advantage of her, but was trying to save her. Fortunately, Li Feng was here, otherwise she might have died here today. Thinking of this, Wang Huan turned around and faced Li Feng shyly, but still didn't dare to look him in the eye. I know everything. Benefactor, my name is Wang Huan, thank you for saving me again. Wang Huan said with a red face. I'm glad you don't blame me. Don't call me benefactor, just call me Li Feng. Li Feng said with a smile. By the way, you are not from our village, right? I have never seen you before. When talking about her life experience, Wang Huan's eyes suddenly dimmed. My family has all passed away, and my only relative is my widowed aunt Wang Xiuji. Before my father died, he asked me to come and live with my aunt, but I didn't expect that my aunt became paralyzed some time ago. I borrowed 5,000 yuan from Zhao Taigang to pay for my aunt's medical treatment. As the repayment deadline is approaching, I would like to ask Zhao Taigang to give me a few more days. He asked me to come to the grove this morning to discuss this with him. Who knew he would bully me as soon as we met? If you hadn't shown up in time, he would have succeeded. At the end of her speech, Wang Huan's eyes were red and she seemed like she would cry at any time. Li Feng hurriedly comforted her, don't be sad. So you are Aunt Wang's niece. I also heard about Aunt Wang's paralysis. I will try to treat her later. Maybe I can help her stand up again. Wang Huan looked at Li Feng with tears in her eyes, are you telling the truth? Li Feng patted his chest and assured, of course. Have you forgotten how I rescued you just now? When talking about the rescue just now, Wang Huan's pretty face turned red and she lowered her head shyly. She was a little girl and was seen naked and touched by Li Feng. How could she get married in the future? Li Feng also realized that it was a bit awkward, so he coughed lightly to change the subject. Speaking of which, what are you going to do with the 5,000 yuan you owe Zhao Taigang? When talking about the matter of owing money, Wang Huan could only smile bitterly. Let's take it one step at a time. I have to take care of my aunt, so I don't even have time to go out and do odd jobs. Don't worry, there will always be a way out. If Zhao Taigang dares to bully you again, come to me. I will help you deal with him. Li Feng said in a deep voice. He originally wanted to say that maybe he could help raise the money, but then he thought again, he and Wang Huan were just meeting for the first time. If he appears too attentive, the other party might think he has some ulterior motive. Besides, he is penniless now and hasn't even got back the 10 acres of land at home. How can he be qualified to help Wang Huan raise money? After comforting Wang Huan for a few words, the two returned to the village together. Wang Huan's clothes had been torn by Zhao Taigang before. In order to prevent her from being criticized by the villagers, Li Feng simply took her home. I planned to borrow a coat from Shudongni for Wang Huan to change. After settling Wang Huan, Li Feng went to Shudongni's house. At this time, Shudongni was washing clothes in the yard. Because she bent over, her pants slipped down a little, revealing a lot of her body. Li Feng coughed lightly and reminded her, Sister-in-law Dong and I, are you doing the laundry? Be careful that someone breaks into your house and peeks at you. Shudongni turned around in surprise, Fengzi, why are you here? She turned her head to look at her lower back and suddenly burst into laughter. Fengzi, why are all you men like this? You only know how to protect your food. Don't worry, sister-in-law will only let you watch her alone, is that okay? As she said this, she gave Li Feng a charming look. Chapter 5. Li Feng touched his nose awkwardly, Sister-in-law Dong and I, that's not what I meant. Forget it, I came here to borrow a piece of clothing from you. Shudongni was stunned for a moment, then reacted and her eyes became even more fiery. Fengzi, you don't have to be like this. As long as you want, I can give you anything. Your brother Cheng won't disagree. Li Feng knew that she must have misunderstood, so he hurried to explain. Sister Dongni, you misunderstood. I wanted to borrow a coat from you. What do you want to borrow that thing for? Shudoni looked puzzled. She thought Li Feng wanted to borrow the underwear to take home and enjoy it alone. Li Feng coughed twice. Nothing, just borrow a coat, sister-in-law, lend it to me first, I will return it to you tomorrow. Shudoni must not be allowed to know about Wang Huan's stay at his house, otherwise the matter will become unclear. Shudoni suddenly thought of something and looked at him suspiciously. Fengzi, when you borrowed clothes from me, were you going to wear them for another woman? Li Feng felt obviously guilty after she revealed his secrets to him. No, no. Sister-in-law, please get me the clothes quickly. If you refuse to lend them, I will borrow from someone else. Li Feng said hurriedly. Shudoni rolled her eyes at him and said, why are you so anxious? When did your sister-in-law say she didn't want to lend it to you? Come with me into the house and get it. Li Feng followed Shudoni into the house and found that Zhao Cheng was not at home. What Li Feng didn't expect was that Shudoni did not go back to their house to get clothes, but instead took off her pink casual shirt in front of him. The clothes were undone, and her proud white figure was fully exposed in front of Li Feng. Against the backdrop of black underwear, Shudoni's skin looks even whiter. Shudoni did not avoid Li Feng at all. Without caring that she was only wearing underwear on the upper body, she handed the clothes to Li Feng. Seeing that Li Feng was in a daze and didn't answer, Shudoni curled her lips. What? You still dislike that this is what my sister-in-law wore? Don't worry, the clothes my sister-in-law wore don't stink, they even have body fragrance. If you don't believe me, smell it. Li Feng came back to his senses and waved his hands repeatedly. Of course not. Sister-in-law, thank you. I'm leaving first. After saying that, Li Feng took his clothes and left as if escaping, fearing that he would be eaten by Shudoni if he stayed any longer. He had figured out that Shudoni wasn't just after him for sperm, but probably more because she hadn't been satisfied for a long time. Come to think of it, at her age, her sexual needs are at their peak, and Zhao Cheng has become a disabled person, so it is normal for Shudoni to think about that. When Li Feng returned home, he saw Wang Huan helping him sweep the floor. I have to say, this little girl is really sensible. Wang Huan, you are so hardworking. There are not many girls as hardworking as you these days. Li Feng joked. Wang Huan's pretty face turned slightly red when she was praised by Li Feng. Don't say that, I didn't do anything. Li Feng handed Shudoni's clothes to Wang Huan. You wear this dress first, and just return it tomorrow. Wang Huan took the clothes and noticed that they were still warm. They were obviously taken off by another woman. She was surprised, but did not show it. She just silently labeled Li Feng a little pervert in her heart. If he wasn't a little pervert, how could he let another woman take off her clothes on the spot? Li Feng asked Wang Huan to go back to their house to change clothes. After she changed her clothes and came out, she did not leave immediately, but swept the floor before saying goodbye and leaving. Li Feng sent Wang Huan to the door, and watched her disappear into the distance, unable to help but sigh. This is a poor little girl. If you can help her in the future, please help her more. Never let a second-rate guy like Zhao Taigang succeed. What Li Feng didn't know was that the whole scene of him sending Wang Huan out was seen by Shudoni next door, who was climbing the ladder. When Shudoni learned that Li Feng borrowed the clothes for Wang Huan, she felt extremely jealous. What exactly did Li Feng and Wang Huan do? Even clothes can be ruined. She imagined countless erotic scenes in her mind, and the more she thought about it, the more sad she felt. It would be great if Wang Huan was replaced by her. She would rather let Li Feng tear every piece of clothing on her body into pieces. Shudoni secretly made up her mind that she couldn't wait for half a month any longer. She had to strike in advance to prevent Li Feng from being snatched away by Wang Huan. That little slut usually looked quite dignified, but she didn't expect to meet a top student like Li Feng. She couldn't last a single round and was taken down on the same day. Li Feng didn't know that Shudoni had thought so much. At this moment, he was thinking about how to make money. His greatest reliance now is his medical skills, and if he wants to make money, he has to start from this aspect. Li Feng suddenly thought of the small clinic in the village. Maybe he could go there to try his luck. There is only one small clinic in Pingshui village. The owner of the clinic is named Ren Chao, who is an uneducated and mediocre doctor. Ren Chao used to be a doctor in a private hospital in the county. However, due to his poor medical skills, a patient died. He was fired and returned to the village in disgrace to open a clinic. Whenever people have a headache or fever, they usually go to him to get medicine. Li Feng strolled all the way to the clinic, and just as he reached the door, he heard Ren Chao's obscene voice coming from inside. Uncle Nyo, listen to me. Take this medicine back and eat it. It will definitely fill Aunt Nyo up at night. Uncle Nyo sighed. Ren Chao, you know Uncle Nyo's situation. I am completely powerless now. I have taken many Liu de wine pills, but they are of no use. Oh. This powerful pill of mine is more powerful than foreigners' Viagra. Uncle Nyo, just take it. If it doesn't work, come back and ask me for your money back. Ren Chao promised, patting his chest. Seeing what he said so well, Uncle Nyo couldn't help but be moved. Unexpectedly, a sneer rang out from outside. Uncle Nyo, if you take his medicine, you will never be able to recover again. The two turned around and saw Li Feng striding in. Seeing him, Ren Chao immediately started cursing. Li the fool, why are you here to cause trouble when you have nothing better to do? Get out of here now. If you don't, I'll beat you with a stick. Li Feng frowned and looked at Ren Chao with unfriendly eyes. The medical university he attended was a 211 university, and after graduation, all county hospitals were vying for him. Ren Chao was a mediocre doctor who worked in a private hospital and was fired. Naturally, he could not compare with Li Feng, so he was extremely jealous. Therefore, when Li Feng became a fool, Ren Chao would sneer at him every time he saw him, and even hit him with a stick once. The reason why Li Feng came to his clinic to intercept was to avenge the betrayal he had suffered in the past. Ren Chao, shut your stinky mouth. You use this medicine to harm Uncle Nyo, of course I won't let you succeed. Li Feng sneered. He turned to Uncle Nyo and said, Uncle Nyo, don't trust this quack. The powerful pills he gave you are totally hormonal drugs. This stuff will indeed be effective at first, but it will drain your body's potential. After taking it for a while, your body will be completely ruined. No matter what medicine you take, it will be useless. Chapter 6. Hearing what Li Feng said, Uncle Nyo couldn't help but take a breath. Fengzi, are you serious? Wait. Are you not stupid anymore? Uncle Nyo then realized that the Li Feng in front of him was not stupid at all. Ren Chao was also surprised. He didn't expect that Li Feng would actually recover one day. Li Feng smiled and said, Uncle Nyo, I have indeed recovered. Otherwise, how would I know that the powerful pills that Ren Chao sold you were hormone drugs? You should be able to find the production information of this kind of medicine online. If it is a hormone drug, just call the manufacturer and you will know. Hearing this, Uncle Nyo nodded and turned to question Ren Chao. Ren Chao, is what Fengzi just said true? Do you dare to call their manufacturer to confirm it in front of me? Ren Chao suddenly felt guilty and didn't dare to look Uncle Nyo in the eye. Seeing this, Uncle Nyo understood everything and couldn't help but sneer. You are so good, Ren Chao, you actually want to harm me. Fortunately, Fengzi is here, otherwise I would have to let you ruin my life. Ren Chao gritted his teeth and looked at Li Feng angrily. Li the fool. You're so rude. How dare you ruin my business? Do you believe I will beat you into a fool? Li Feng's eyes turned cold instantly. He rushed to Ren Chao, grabbed his collar and lifted him up. Ren Chao was about the same height as Li Feng, but he was lifted into the air by him. Li Feng, let me go. Ren Chao struggled desperately, but couldn't get free. Li Feng sneered and threw Ren Chao to the ground like trash, causing him to fall flat on his butt. Ren Chao grimaced in pain, his buttocks were numb from the fall, and he couldn't even get up for a while. Ren Chao, since we are from the same village, we are even now. Li Feng said coldly. But if you dare to call me Li Shazi again, I will slap you in the face. Ren Chao wanted to retort, but when he looked up he saw Li Feng's cold gaze. He shuddered all over and the words on the tip of his tongue could no longer come out, so he had to lower his head and admit defeat. Seeing that he looked so cowardly, Li Feng didn't bother to pay attention to him anymore. He turned around and said to Uncle Nyo with a smile. Uncle Nyo, if you want to regulate your body, it's useless to find this quack. Come to me. I'll help you regulate it. I guarantee that after taking a dose of medicine, you will be full of energy. If you eat this for 2 or 3 days in a row, you will feel full of energy. It's like you're back to your youth. Uncle Nyo's eyes suddenly lit up. Fengzi, do you really have a solution? Of course. Looking at your complexion, I can tell that you are overworked and your qi and blood are deficient. I will prescribe a prescription for you to replenish your qi and blood. It will work after one dose, Li Feng said loudly. Uncle Niu said eagerly, Fengzi, if it's really like what you said, I'll give you as much money as you want. He paused and a wry smile appeared on his face. Of course, you can't ask for too much. 8,000 is fine. Uncle Niu can't give you more than that. Li Feng smiled and said, just 8,000 yuan. Uncle Niu, your family is a big cattle breeder, earning hundreds of thousands a year. 8,000 yuan is nothing to you. He picked up the pen and paper on the counter, quickly wrote a prescription for replenishing qi and blood, and handed it to Uncle Niu. Uncle Niu, just follow the prescription. The procedures for decocting and taking the medicine are also written above. Remember not to eat raw or cold food in the next 2 days, and try not to eat spicy food, said Li Feng. Uncle Niu nodded with a smile, Fengzi, if the effect is really as you said, I will definitely give you 8,000 yuan. Ren Chao, who was slumped on the ground, felt jealous when he saw that Li Feng was going to make 8,000 for just one prescription, and he immediately started to sneer at him. Uncle Niu, you are already quite old, but you actually let a young boy do this to you. You even believed the random prescription he gave you? Don't forget, Li Feng has been a fool for 2 years. He hasn't even graduated from college, how good can his medical skills be? If you get hurt again, Sister Niu's happiness for the rest of her life will be ruined. After hearing what Ren Chao said, Uncle Niu's face suddenly changed. Seeing this, Li Feng's eyes flashed coldly. He strode up to Ren Chao and slapped him hard twice. Ren Chao's face swelled up at a speed visible to the naked eye. His originally long face turned into a round face. He covered his cheeks and screamed. Ren Chao, you really only care about food and not beatings. If you dare to slander me again, I will smash your face. Li Feng said in a cold tone. He said to Uncle Niu, Uncle Niu, it is normal for you to have concerns in your heart. Next, I will give you some confidence. He walked to the shelf by the wall, picked up an unopened box of silver needles and opened it casually. Before Uncle Niu could react, he saw Li Feng walking quickly up to him, holding a silver needle in each hand, and inserting them into the daimai acupoints on both sides of his waist. Then Li Feng took out a silver needle and inserted it into the Shinshu point, Mingmen point and Barqiao point on Uncle Niu's lower back. At this moment, Uncle Niu finally came to his senses and hurriedly asked Li Feng. Fengzi, what are you doing? Li Feng didn't say anything, but took out another silver needle and casually pierced it into the Guanyuan point on Uncle Niu's abdomen. The silver needle was inserted 5 inches, then pulled up 2 inches, twisted 3 times to the left and right, and then lightly flicked on the silver needle. At this point, Li Feng clapped his hands and looked at Uncle Niu with a mischievous look on his face. Uncle Niu, you'd better turn your back to the door, otherwise if people passing by see what you're going to do next, you'll become famous. Before Uncle Niu could react to what Li Feng meant, he felt a warm current rising from his lower abdomen. The body that had been unresponsive at first suddenly began to stir. He was stunned. Li Feng could bring him back to life with just a few injections. Now Uncle Niu was completely convinced by Li Feng. Li Feng's few injections had such a great effect. The medicine he prescribed must be more effective. Fengzi? Don't say anything. Uncle Niu has 1,000 yuan in his pocket, and I'll give it all to you as a deposit later. When the medicine works, Uncle Niu will give you another 9,000. Uncle Niu's face was full of excitement. Originally I only planned to pay 8,000 yuan for the consultation, but now it has been changed to 10,000 yuan. After Li Feng removed the injection, Uncle Niu happily gave him 1,000 yuan. He took the prescription and left happily, leaving behind Li Feng with a smile and Ren Chao with a dazed look on his face. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Ren Chao would never have believed that Li Feng could give Uncle Niu a new lease of life with just a few injections. Little did he know that Li Feng had taken a shortcut in those few injections, using the method of acupuncture with a spring needle as recorded in the Shennong Secret Book, which temporarily stimulated Uncle Niu's physical potential. If Uncle Niu wants to truly recover, he has to rely on the medicine prescribed by Li Feng. But Li Feng only stimulated Uncle Niu's physical potential, which was completely different from Ren Chao's powerful pill that overdrafted his physical potential. The former is harmless, but the latter is very harmful. Li Feng glanced at Ren Chao lying on the ground, too lazy to ridicule him, and turned around and left with 1,000 yuan in his pocket. Chapter 7. With money in his pocket, Li Feng no longer needs to eat wild fruits. He strolled to the Yangmai supermarket in the village, ready to buy some food. The small supermarket was opened by Hu Yangmai, a famous pretty widow in the village. A few years after Hu Yangmai married into Pingshui village, her husband Li Wenqiang died in a car accident. Only she and her infant daughter Li Yeye were left. Relying on her husband's compensation, Hu Yangmai opened this small supermarket and raised her daughter alone. Although Hu Yangmai was a widow, she was very beautiful, with a pair of charming eyes that seemed to be able to enchant people. Not to mention her figure, her plump and round but makes her a good material for giving birth to a son. For this reason, young and old in the village all like to go to her Yangmai supermarket to buy things. While shopping, you can also feast your eyes. In the past few years, many matchmakers came to Hu Yanmai's house to propose marriage, but she rejected them all, saying that she did not want to let her daughter Yeye down. When we arrived at Yangmai supermarket, Hu Yangmai was the only one there, busy doing the math with a calculator. Today, Hu Yangmai is wearing a white top with blue flowers. The material is very breathable and looks relatively loose. But it is not loose when worn by Hu Yangmai. The clothes were so tight that the buttons on the chest seemed like they would burst at any moment. Even though Li Feng had just seen Xu Dongni's sexy figure, he had to admit that a woman who had breastfed a child did have more capital. Even though she is over 30 years old, Hu Yanmai's figure has not changed at all. In front of Hu Yangmai, Xu Dongni has to admit defeat. "Auntie, I'm busy." Li Feng took the initiative to greet her. Hu Yangmai subconsciously raised her head, and when she saw Li Feng, she was stunned at first, and then habitually picked up the chicken sausage next to her and handed it to him. "Fengzi, are you hungry again? This is for you." In the past, when Li Feng was stupid, sometimes when he was so hungry that he couldn't stand it, he would run to Yangmai supermarket. Hu Yangmai felt sorry for him and always gave him some snacks. Although the number of times was not many, Li Feng had already remembered her kindness. Seeing this, Li Feng smiled and said, "Aunt, I'll buy it this time." As he said this, he took out $200 bills from his pocket and placed them on the counter. Hu Yangmai then realized that the Li Feng in front of her seemed different from the previous Li Shazi. "Fengzi, are you not stupid anymore?" Hu Yangmai said in surprise. Li Feng nodded with a smile. "Yes, auntie. I have recovered. You have taken care of me a lot in the past 2 years, and I haven't said thank you yet." "Oh. It's true. Fengzi, it's great that you can recover. We are all from the same village, why should we say thank you?" Hu Yangmai came out from behind the counter in surprise. When she came in front of Li Feng, she looked him up and down, praising him constantly. "You are indeed a top student in Pingshui village. You are tall and handsome." Li Feng was happy. "Auntie, please stop praising me. Give me 2 kilograms of eggs and 2 packs of noodles. Also some oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, etc." Hu Yangmai glanced at the money on the counter and said, "That doesn't require that much money. The rest is my way of repaying your kindness." Li Feng said with a smile. Hu Yangmai deliberately put on a stern face. "Fengzi, you are treating your aunt as an outsider when you say this. Don't say anything else, I will give you the aunts you just mentioned. Take these 200 yuan. If you insist on paying, it means you look down on your aunt. Don't come to my Yangmai supermarket anymore." Li Feng was stunned. He didn't expect Hu Yangmai to say that. Just when he was about to say something, heart-wrenching cries suddenly came from the yard behind the supermarket. Hu Yanmai's face changed drastically. Something happened to Yeye. She didn't bother to talk to Li Feng and turned around and rushed to the backyard. Li Feng also followed with a serious expression. In the backyard, Yeye, who was still in kindergarten, was sitting on the ground, covering her ankle and crying loudly. There was a purple-black tooth mark on her ankle. Not far away, a colorful poisonous snake was spitting out its tongue. It was obvious that the teeth marks on Yeye's ankle were its masterpiece. At this time Hu Yangmai and Li Feng rushed to the backyard. "Mom!" Yeye saw Hu Yangmai crying even harder. Hu Yangmai loved her son so much that she was about to rush forward, but unexpectedly Li Feng grabbed her arm. "Aunt, be careful. There is a poisonous snake opposite Yeye," Li Feng said in a deep voice. Only then did Hu Yangmai notice that there was a poisonous snake opposite Yeye. "Oh no! Yeye was bitten by a poisonous snake. What should we do?" Hu Yangmai was so anxious that she almost cried. Li Feng didn't say anything, but just looked around. His eyes fell on the steel fork by the wall. He picked up the steel fork and strode towards the poisonous snake, while reminding Hu Yangmai to take the opportunity to hug Yeye away. When the poisonous snake saw Li Feng approaching, it hissed a warning. Li Feng had no expression on his face, he just walked towards it step by step. While Li Feng was attracting the poisonous snake, Hu Yangmai hurried forward and carried Ye aside. Seeing that Li Feng was not afraid of it, the poisonous snake felt provoked and suddenly attacked Li Feng. At the moment it launched an attack, Li Feng dodged the venomous snake and at the same time, he used his backhand to fork the venomous snake to the ground. Li Feng's reaction speed is now faster than that of a cat. A cat can play with a poisonous snake, let alone Li Feng whose reaction speed is even faster. The poisonous snake twisted its body and struggled in pain, but it couldn't get free. Li Feng picked up a brick from the wall and hit the snake's head with it, killing it with one brick. The venomous snake struggled weakly for a few times, and finally became motionless. Hu Yangmai finally breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Li Feng had dealt with the poisonous snake. Just when he was about to thank Li Feng, before he could open his mouth, Ye in his arms suddenly dropped her head and fainted. Ye's face was pale, and her eye sockets and lips were black. It was obvious that the snake venom had spread throughout her body. Ye! Hu Yangmai let out a shrill cry. The mother and daughter depend on each other. If Ye died, she wouldn't want to live anymore. Li Feng quickly walked up to the mother and daughter, grabbed Ye's little hand and took her pulse. After confirming Ye's pulse, Li Feng breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly said to Hu Yangmai, "Don't worry, Auntie, Ye can still be saved." Hearing this, Hu Yangmai raised her head, her pretty face already filled with tears. "Fengzi, can you save Ye?" Li Feng nodded heavily, "That's right." He ordered Hu Yangmai to carry Ye back to bed and not to suck out the poisonous blood from her wound without permission. I went to the kitchen and came out with a bottle of aged vinegar in my hand. As soon as they entered the room, Hu Yangmai hurried forward. "Fengzi, can you really save Ye? Why don't you call 120 for emergency assistance?" Li Feng shook his head. Ye was poisoned by a very strong snake, she can't even make it to the hospital. As he said this, he walked to the bed, carefully pried open Ye's mouth, and poured half a bottle of old vinegar into her mouth. Chapter 8. Then Li Feng took out the acupuncture box from his pocket. Fortunately, he got a box of silver needles from Ren Chao, otherwise he really wouldn't know what to do now. Under Hu Yanmai's nervous gaze, Li Feng picked up a silver needle and stabbed it into the center of Ye's snake bite wound. Then, silver needles were inserted in a circle around the center, just covering the snake's tooth marks. Seeing that the silver needles had completely covered the wound, Li Feng shouted loudly, grabbed Ye's calf with one hand and Ye's foot with the other, and exerted force with both hands at the same time. With a sizzle sound, a lot of purple-black blood spurted out from the place where Ye was bitten. "This is the poison of the wound." Li Feng pressed hard 3 times, and the purple-black color of the blood spurting out of Ye's wound became lighter and lighter, and in the end it had returned to the bright red color of normal blood. Hu Yangmai, who was standing by, was so shocked that her eyes widened. She had just wanted to suck out the poisonous blood from Ye's wound. I didn't expect that Li Feng could use such a clever method to drain all the poisonous blood from Ye's wound. But even though the poisonous blood was drained, Ye still did not wake up, and the color of her eyes and lips was still black. "Fengzi, why hasn't Ye woken up yet?" Hu Yangmai asked worriedly. Li Feng smiled and said, "Don't worry, Auntie, Ye will be fine soon." Just then, Ye coughed instinctively. Seeing this, Li Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. He picked up Ye and let her face the trash can beside the bed, while his right hand patted Ye's chest. If you observe carefully, you will find that before each slapping, he always presses the surrounding acupuncture points at a very fast speed. As Li Feng slapped her, Ye started to vomit, and at first she vomited the old vinegar she had drunk. When the old vinegar was almost vomited out, what came out next was actually dark brown blood. Only after she had vomited out almost all the dark brown blood did Li Feng put her back on the bed. At this time, Ye's lips finally regained their color, and her eye sockets were not so dark anymore. Her eyelids moved a few times and she slowly opened her eyes. Seeing her daughter come back to life, Hu Yangmai was so excited that she hugged Ye in her arms. "Ye? Ye, I hope you're okay. I hope you're okay." Woo woo. The sensible Ye took the initiative to comfort Hu Yangmai. "Mom, don't cry, Ye is not sad now." After a while, exhausted Ye fell asleep. Li Feng and Hu Yangmai came to the yard outside, and Hu Yangmai looked at Li Feng with gratitude. "Fengzi, thank you for saving Ye. You are really a great benefactor to my mother and me." I don't have much cash on hand right now. I will go to the town to get 20,000 yuan for you tomorrow. Hearing this, Li Feng's expression became serious. Aunt, I didn't save Yaya for money. We are all from the same village, and we should help each other. If you want to give me money, it means you don't treat me as your own. If you dare to mention giving money again, I will never come to your Yangmai supermarket again. When Hu Yangmai heard Li Feng repeat to her what he had said before, she was touched but couldn't help laughing. But this made Li Feng suffer. The scene in front of him was extremely tempting, but he still had to resist the temptation and turn his eyes away. Hu Yangmai also noticed the change in Li Feng's expression, and there was a hint of smile in her charming eyes. Sure enough, you are still young. At this time, she noticed that Yaya accidentally stained Li Feng's clothes when she vomited just now. Fengzi, Yaya has made your clothes dirty. There is water in the solarium, go to the room over there and take a bath, said Hu Yangmai. Take off your clothes, I'll wash them for you, and they'll be dried quickly with a hair dryer. Li Feng looked down and saw that there were indeed stains on his body and an unpleasant smell. He hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded and agreed. Hu Yanmei's home has solar energy and a dedicated bathroom, which is better than going home and taking a cold shower in the yard. Li Feng took off his coat swiftly, revealing his toned and muscular 8-pack abs. Hu Yangmai was stunned. Why didn't she notice that Li Feng had such a good figure before? Looking at Li Feng's masculine and handsome face, as well as his muscular body, Hu Yangmai couldn't bear to look away for a moment. Aunt, aunt! Li Feng called Hu Yangmai twice. Hu Yangmai finally came to her senses and her pretty face turned red. She quickly grabbed Li Feng's clothes and said with a blushing face, Fengzi, go take a shower. I'll wash your clothes. After saying that, without waiting for Li Feng to reply, Hu Yangmai turned around and ran to the faucet to wash clothes. Li Feng didn't care and went into the bathroom to take a nice hot shower. It would be nice to have a solar water heater at home. I'll get one when I have enough money. While Li Feng was happily taking a hot shower, Hu Yangmai, who was washing his clothes, suddenly remembered something. The underwear she took off after taking a shower last night was still in the bathroom sink and she hadn't had time to wash it. How embarrassing it would be if Li Feng saw it. Thinking of that scene, Hu Yangmai felt her cheeks burning, but for some reason, she felt an inexplicable throbbing in her heart. If the old man in the village who coveted her did this, Hu Yangmai would only feel angry and disgusted. But if Li Feng did that, Hu Yangmai would not be so disgusted. She blushed and comforted herself, Fengzi is a hot-blooded young man, it's nothing. Suddenly, an idea flashed through Hu Yanmei's mind. How about, go over and take a sneak peek? Hu Yangmai thought to herself and put down the clothes she was washing. I saw her tiptoe to the bathroom door and quietly pushed it open a little. At this moment, Li Feng was humming a song and washing his hair with his eyes closed. He didn't do anything obscene at all. Hu Yangmai was worrying too much. Li Feng didn't even notice the wash basin in the corner. But at this moment, Hu Yangmai no longer cared about underwear. Her eyes were fixed on Li Feng, who was taking a shower. Seeing that Li Feng was about to finish washing his hair, Hu Yangmai didn't dare to watch any longer and quickly closed the door and left in a hurry. Back in front of the faucet, Hu Yangmai still hadn't recovered from the shock. All I could see was Li Feng's muscular figure and handsome face. Since her husband passed away, Hu Yangmai has devoted all her heart to her daughter Yaya. Although many people asked matchmakers to come to her house, including some unmarried young men, Hu Yangmai never agreed. After a few years, her interest in men faded. Chapter 9. Although Hu Yangmai runs a supermarket, she just laughs and scolds the village men who talk nonsense. But if there is a man who really wants to take advantage of her, Hu Yangmai will not give him the slightest bit of good face. It was not until she caught a glimpse of Li Feng's muscular body at the bathroom door just now that she suddenly felt a desire for a man again. The desire that had been pent up for several years suddenly burst out at this moment. At this moment, her mind was full of Li Feng's shadow, and she wanted to rush into the bathroom. Hu Yangmai quickly took a handful of cold water and splashed it on her face. The cool water gradually calmed her down. Thinking back to her previous thoughts, Hu Yangmai felt her face burning. She is a widow, and in terms of seniority, she is Li Feng's aunt. How could she have such thoughts? Although the two families are only distant relatives, Li Feng still calls her aunt. The more Hu Yangmai thought about it, the more ashamed she felt. However, she couldn't help but turned her head and looked in the direction of the bathroom, with desire deep in her eyes. After a while, Li Feng came out of the shower, looking refreshed. "Auntie, are my clothes dry?" Hu Yangmai blushed and said, "It's not dry yet. I'll use a hair dryer to dry it now." As she said that, she glanced at Li Feng. Li Feng's 8-pack abs looked more and more beautiful. In order to prevent Li Feng from noticing anything unusual about her, she took the clothes to the inner room and dried them with a hair dryer before taking them out and letting Li Feng put them on. "Fengzi, didn't you say you wanted to buy something? Go to the front with your aunt to get it," said Hu Yangmai. The two returned to the small supermarket outside, and Hu Yangmai brought a bunch of food to Li Feng. In addition to the noodles and eggs he ordered, there were also chicken legs, chicken feet, sausages, etc., filling 2 large bags. Seeing that Li Feng still wanted to take out money, Hu Yangmai glared at him. "If you dare to mention paying, don't call me aunt from now on." Li Feng had no choice but to carry 2 large bags of free stuff back home. At noon, Li Feng's family started cooking again after 2 years, and the house became more lively. Although it was just a pot of egg noodles, it had great symbolic significance for Li Feng. After eating and drinking, Li Feng had a good sleep. Although he said he was sleeping, he was actually familiar with the other contents of Shennong's book in his dream. It was already evening when he woke up. Li Feng cooked himself a bowl of noodles and added 2 chicken legs. After happily eating a big bowl of noodles, Li Feng burped and was about to wash the dishes. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Li Feng wondered who came to see him at this time. Could it be that Shudongni was still harboring evil intentions and came here on purpose to tease him? When the door opened, the person standing in front of him was not Shudongni, but Wang Huan, whom he had just met in the morning. Wang Huan stood there prettily, holding a cloth bag in her hand. "It's you? What's the matter that brings you to see me so late?" Li Feng asked her. Wang Huan whispered, "I'm here to return my clothes." As she spoke, she took out the clothes she had borrowed in the morning from her cloth bag. The clothes had already been washed and dried. Li Feng suddenly realized and took it. "Actually, you can still come back tomorrow. I'll take the clothes. You can go back soon," Li Feng said with a smile. He was about to close the door, but Wang Huan hurriedly stopped him. "Li Feng, can you come back with me and treat my aunt? I heard from Aunt Yangmai that you are a very good doctor. Her daughter Yeye was bitten by a poisonous snake, and it was you who cured her." It turned out that Wang Huan had just gone to Yangmai supermarket to buy salt and happened to hear Hu Yangmai chatting with 2 women. Hu Yangmai told the story of how Li Feng cured her daughter Yeye, and even exaggerated it, describing Li Feng as a miracle doctor who was rarely seen in a century. Only then did Wang Huan believe that Li Feng really had superb medical skills. So she took the opportunity to return the clothes and asked Li Feng to treat her aunt. Seeing Wang Huan's pleading face, Li Feng pondered for a few seconds, then nodded and agreed. As far as I can remember, when he was still a fool, Wang Shuji once spoke up for him and drove away a few bad kids who wanted to bully him. Just for this reason, he has to help. Seeing that Li Feng agreed, Wang Huan's face was immediately filled with joy. "Great. Thank you, Li Feng. If you can cure my aunt, I will definitely repay you well." She didn't know how to thank Li Feng for a moment, so she could only say that she wanted to repay him. Li Feng smiled and didn't take it seriously. After a while, the two arrived at the home of Wang Huan's aunt Wang Shuji. The house was very tidy, with clean sheets and quilt covers hanging in the yard, and the house was also very clean. Wang Shuji is paralyzed in bed and cannot take care of herself, so she depends on Wang Huan for everything. Wang Huan worked tirelessly to serve her without a single complaint, which shows that she is indeed a filial and good girl. On the bed in the room, when Wang Shuji saw Li Feng, she could still not hide her surprise on her face. "Fengzi, what Xiao Huan said is true. You are really not stupid anymore." Li Feng smiled and said, "Yes, Aunt Wang. Not only am I no longer stupid, I have also learned medical skills. Let me take your pulse and diagnose you, maybe I can help you stand up again." When talking about standing up again, Wang Shuji couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Fengzi, you know your aunt's condition very well. The experts at the county hospital said that I won't be able to stand up again." Wang Huan hurriedly said, "Aunt, Li Feng's medical skills are really amazing. He even saved me from a heart attack. Also, Aunt Yanmei's daughter Yeye was bitten by a poisonous snake and was also cured by Li Feng. Just let him take her pulse and make a diagnosis." Hearing Wang Huan's words, Wang Shuji looked at Li Feng in surprise, then looked at Wang Huan with a look of sudden realization. Wang Huan did not tell Wang Xiuji that she was almost bullied by Zhao Taigang in the morning. But Wang Xiuji still discovered something. She noticed that Wang Huan suddenly changed her clothes, and it was obvious that something had happened. It was not until now that she finally understood that Wang Huan changed her clothes because of Li Feng. Something must have happened between these two people, maybe the whole thing is already done. After realizing this, Wang Xiuji's eyes when looking at Li Feng immediately changed, and they were full of kindness. Okay. Since Xiao Wan said so, Fengzi, you can cure me. Auntie believes in you too. Wang Xiuji said with a smile. Although Li Feng was a fool before, he has now recovered and become a top student in the village again. Wang Huan has found a good home as she can be with him. The two young people didn't know it yet, but Wang Xiuji already thought of them as a couple. Li Feng nodded, walked forward, and took Wang Xiuji's pulse and gave her a diagnosis. Soon, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Aunt Wang's legs can still be saved. Just acupuncture her calves and take some medicine. It won't be long before she can stand up again. Chapter 10. When Wang Huan heard Li Feng say that Wang Xiuji's leg could be cured, her pretty face was filled with excitement. Aunt, did you hear that? Li Feng said you can stand up again. Wang Xiuji was also surprised and delighted. I heard it. Fengzi, can you really cure my leg? But the county expert said that my leg cannot be cured. Li Feng said proudly, just because the county experts can't cure it doesn't mean I can't cure it either. Aunt Wang, don't worry. In 3 days at most, I can show you obvious treatment results. Seeing how confident he was, Wang Xiuji and Wang Huan looked at each other and saw the joy on each other's faces. Unexpectedly, at this moment, arrogant shouts were heard from outside the door. Wang Huan! Get out here! Give me back the $5,000 you owe me. Wang Huan's face suddenly changed. The person shouting outside was none other than Zhao Taigang. Aunt, I'm going to go out and take a look. Although she was a little scared, Wang Huan did not show it in front of her aunt Wang Xiuji. Wang Xiuji sighed, Xiao Huan, if Zhao Taigang asks for the repayment, we can just mortgage our few acres of land to him. How can that be possible? Those acres of land were left to you by your uncle. I'll go out and send Zhao Taigang away first. Wang Huan shook her head. She walked out alone, and Li Feng followed her out. Outside the gate, Zhao Taigang and a few of his thugs were knocking on the door arrogantly. Many villagers nearby came to watch, but no one dared to step forward and meddle. Zhao Taigang and his gang are running rampant in the village, and no one dares to stop them. Wang Huan opened the door and walked out. When she saw Zhao Chegang's evil behavior, her face changed slightly. If Li Feng hadn't shown up in time that morning, she would have been ruined by this bastard. When Zhao Taigang saw Wang Huan coming out, a grim smile appeared on his face. Wang Huan! You must pay me back the 5,000 yuan you owe me today. Upon hearing this, Wang Huan angrily shouted, Zhao Taigang! We agreed to pay you back at the end of the month. It's not even the end of the month yet, what right do you have to come to my house and ask for money? Humph! Why? Brothers, tell her why. Zhao Taigang sneered. Just because Brother Gang is your creditor. You owe Brother Gang money, you have to pay it back when Brother Gang says. A second-rate guy yelled. That's right. Brother Gang asked you to pay back the money in advance for your own good. It will save you the trouble of not being able to pay at the end of the month. Wang Huan, why don't you ask around? In our Pingshui village, who dares to owe Brother Gang money and not pay it back? Brother Gang will definitely break his legs. You don't want to become paralyzed like your aunt, do you? The scoundrels were talking at once, and some even brought up Wang Xiuji's paralyzed leg. Wang Huan was so angry that her pretty face turned red. Are you still human? You are nothing. Zhao Taigang laughed loudly. Wang Huan, stop talking nonsense here. Hurry up and give me the money. But if you really can't pay, you can also use other methods to pay off the debt. He looked at Wang Huan with lustful eyes and said, how about this? If you sleep with me once, I will give you 50 yuan. 5,000 yuan, just sleep with me 100 times. As soon as he finished speaking, all the second-rate guys burst into laughter. Brother Gang, you have to share these 100 times with everyone else dozens of times. Yeah, Brother Gang, you eat the meat, but you have to let your brothers gnaw on the bones. This girl has delicate skin and tender flesh. Brother Gang, please be gentle when you get to her. The lewd words and noises of the scoundrel made Wang Huan's face turn red and she trembled all over. The villagers who were watching just stood there watching the fun, and no one dared to do anything to Zhao Taigang. Zhao Taigang said proudly, "Don't worry. I'll eat the meat and you guys will gnaw on the bones." As soon as their words fell, a cold voice sounded. "Zhao Taigang, it's only been half a day, do you think you're ready again? Is it because I was too gentle this morning?" Everyone looked in the direction where the sound came from, only to see Li Feng striding out of the yard. When Zhao Taigang saw Li Feng, he remembered how he was beaten by him in the morning and became furious. "You fool Li, I haven't even come to find you yet, but you come here to oppose me." He looked at Li Feng, then at Wang Huan, and suddenly realized something, and the expression on his face became even more angry. "Fool Li, I didn't expect that you would be the first to get the prey I set my eyes on. You're the winner." Obviously, he mistakenly thought that Li Feng took the opportunity of being a hero and saving the beauty to have sex with Wang Huan. Wang Huan didn't understand what Zhao Taigang meant and her face turned red with shame. But she couldn't explain directly in front of so many people. However, the villagers who were watching at this time were not interested in this matter. Their attention was all focused on Li Feng. "Isn't this Li Shazi? He doesn't look stupid anymore. You just found out about this." "I found out when I was chatting with Yang Mai this afternoon. I heard about it too. I heard that Li Feng went to the clinic and beat up Ren Chao. I never thought that Li Shazi, who has been crazy for 2 years, would recover one day." The villagers were talking about it. Obviously they didn't expect that the former fool Li could actually return to normal. Zhao Taigang stared at Li Feng with his eyes blazing with anger. Not only did Li Feng beat him up in the morning, but he also played with Wang Huan, the girl he had his eyes on. The new and old grudges added together were enough to make him angry as hell. Zhao Taigang pointed at Li Feng and yelled angrily, "Brothers, come on. Beat up Li the fool." The second-rate men under his command received the order and rushed towards Li Feng like wolves and tigers. Facing this group of second-rate guys, Li Feng was not afraid at all. Instead, he walked forward with a sneer. He kicked the second-rate guy in the front hard in the abdomen. The powerful force sent him flying backwards and hit another second-rate guy. Several other scoundrels were also punished by Li Feng's iron fist, and they were beaten so hard that they cried for their parents. In less than half a minute, all of Zhao Cheng's second-rate men were knocked down by Li Feng. The villagers watching were all stunned. They didn't expect that Li Feng, the former top student, could be so good at fighting. The second-rate guys under Zhao Taigang are all frequent fighters, and ordinary people are no match for them. Li Feng was able to defeat several of them by himself, which shows how capable he is. Zhao Taigang was completely dumbfounded. He originally thought that it was his love rival who was ambushed by Li Feng in the morning. It was not until now that he realized that Li Feng defeated him not by luck, but by strength. Li Feng walked up to Zhao Taigang with a sneer. Zhao Taigang realized that something was wrong and turned around and tried to escape. Unexpectedly, Li Feng grabbed his shoulders and pressed him to the ground. "Fool Li. Oh no. Li Feng. Brother Feng. I was wrong. Don't hit me there. Don't hit me there." Zhao Taigang did not forget to protect his crotch even when he fell to the ground. Chapter 11. Li Feng sneered and kicked Zhao Taigang at the Guan Yuan point on his lower abdomen. He used the force-generating technique of acupuncture to directly disperse Zhao Cheng's masculine energy. Starting today, Zhao Taigang will change his name to Zhao Tiru. He will never have the chance to harm a woman again. Having destroyed Zhao Cheng's function as a man, Li Feng was too lazy to waste his energy on beating him. He just stood in front of Zhao Taigang with his arms folded, looking down at him and putting one foot on his chest. "Zhao Taigang, do you dare to cause trouble for Wang Huan again in the future?" Zhao Taigang shouted hurriedly, "I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again." Wang Huan said, "Zhao Taigang, I owe you 5,000 yuan. I will pay you back at the end of the month. My aunt and I are not the kind of people who don't pay back debts." Yes. Just pay the money back at the end of the month. Our agreement was at the end of the month. Zhao Taigang said quickly. Li Feng nodded with satisfaction, then withdrew his foot from stepping on Zhao Taigang. "All right. Get out of here with your lackeys. If I find out that you are causing trouble for Wang Huan again, I will definitely kick your head off," Li Feng said coldly. Zhao Taigang got up from the ground and left in a panic as if he had been pardoned. The other scoundrels also followed him and left with their tails between their legs. After they left, the surrounding villagers came forward to congratulate Li Feng. Fengzi, I'm so glad you recovered. The top student in our village is back again. Congratulations. Fengzi, when you are free, come to my house for a drink and we can catch up. Fengzi, if your parents knew about this, they would be so happy. The villagers who were watching were all consciously trying to make friends with Li Feng. Now Li Feng is not only no longer stupid, but also has become so good at fighting that even Zhao Taigang and his gang were beaten by him and cried for their parents. Such a handsome young man must be treated well. Li Feng responded with a smile. He did not seem too happy about everyone's initiative to make friends with him, but he did not keep people at a distance either. In the past 2 years, he has experienced the warmth and coldness of human nature, and his character has become much more mature than before. Most of the people in the village are good people, and some of them have helped him. But there were also a small number of people who had bullied him before, and Li Feng wrote them all down in a small notebook. When the villagers dispersed, only Li Feng and Wang Huan were left. Li Feng looked at Wang Huan. Come in. I'll prescribe a prescription for Aunt Wang. Wang Huan recalled that Zhao Taigang mistakenly thought that they had already slept with each other. Her pretty face flushed and she nodded obediently and followed Li Feng. Just like a young wife following her husband. After a while, Li Feng wrote the prescription and said to Wang Xiuji with a smile. Aunt, let Wang Huan go to town to get you some medicine tomorrow. Once the medicine is ready, I will use acupuncture and herbal medicine to treat you. Hearing this, Wang Xiuji waved her hands repeatedly. No, no. Xiao Huan doesn't know how to get medicine. If she goes alone, she will easily be cheated. Fengzi, why don't you accompany Xiao Huan to the town tomorrow? Li Feng was a little surprised. I go with her? That's fine. I also have something to do in town. Seeing that Li Feng agreed, Wang Xiuji smiled happily. It's settled then. After Li Feng left, Wang Huan couldn't help but ask Wang Xiuji. Auntie, I've gone to town to get medicine many times. Why did you tell Li Feng that I don't know how to get medicine? Wang Xiuji rolled her eyes at her and said, Silly girl. I am creating an opportunity for you two to get along with each other. Your thoughts can't escape my eyes. Wang Huan's pretty face turned red and she lowered her head shyly. Aunt, what are you talking about? I don't have any thoughts at all. Although she said this, Wang Huan's mind suddenly appeared the tall and handsome image of Li Feng. Wang Xiuji smiled. Fengzi is a good young man. There are not many young men as good as him these days. If you don't seize the opportunity, someone else will take it away. Wang Huan was a little dazed and inexplicably thought of the clothes that Li Feng had found for her that were still warm. Who is that woman? The next morning, just after Li Feng finished his meal, Wang Huan came, riding a somewhat worn electric bike. Li Feng, have you eaten? I made some scallion pancakes and boiled a few eggs. Would you like to try them? Wang Huan said with a blushing face. As she spoke, she took out a plastic bag of scallion pancakes and 2 eggs from the basket. Although they had already eaten, Wang Huan was so sincere that Li Feng couldn't refuse. So he picked up a piece of oil cake and tasted it, and his eyes suddenly lit up. This pancake is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, and it's not greasy at all. It also has a strong onion flavor, really good. Seeing that Li Feng liked it, Wang Huan's eyes were full of joy. Eat more if you like. Li Feng ate 2 more pieces of pancakes and an egg, then he patted his belly and said he was full, and put the rest in the house. When he locked the door and prepared to leave, Li Feng suddenly realized something. He has no means of transportation. The considerate Wang Huan immediately suggested that the two of them ride on one electric bike. Li Feng was a little embarrassed. Isn't this a bit awkward? In rural areas, usually only couples ride a bike together. Li Feng was worried that Wang Huan would mistakenly think that he was trying to take advantage of her. Wang Huan shook her head. It doesn't matter. Besides, anyway, we are both like that anyway. Her words almost made Li Feng choke on his own saliva. What do you mean they are both like that? He just took off Wang Huan's shirt while rescuing her. If someone heard Wang Huan say this without knowing the truth, they might think that they had slept with each other. Ahem, Wang Huan, let's not talk about the past. Hurry up and get in the car. It's important to get Aunt Wang some medicine. Wang Huan nodded obediently, and waited for Li Feng to get on the electric bike. She sat sideways on the back seat like a lady, holding the handrails with both hands. Just like that, the two of them left on an electric bike. What Li Feng didn't know was that just as they left, Shudoni came out of the house with a somewhat unhappy look on her face. I knew it. Frenzy must have slept with that little girl a long time ago. No wonder he showed up at Wang Huan's house yesterday evening and was so protective of her. Shudoni thought gloomily. What happened last night has spread throughout the village. Everyone in the village knows that Li Feng is not stupid, and they also know that he taught Zhao Taigang and his gang a lesson for Wang Huan. If Li Feng knew that Shudoni misunderstood that he and Wang Huan had slept together, he would definitely cry out that he was wronged. He didn't do anything, how could he be blamed for such a big crime? As for Li Feng, he rode an electric bike with Wang Huan straight to the town. The town they lived in was called Ping'an Town, a well-known poor town in the county. Even the road from the village to the town is in disrepair. At first Wang Huan could still hold onto the handrail, but there was a section of the road in the middle that was very bumpy. In order not to fall, she could only hug Li Feng from behind. Being held by Wang Huan and smelling the virgin fragrance coming from her body, Li Feng couldn't help but feel a little distracted. Chapter 12. Especially when encountering bumpy roads, their bodies were pressed close together, and Li Feng could even feel Wang Huan's beginning to take shape in softness. How could he, a man full of hot blood, bear this? Fortunately, the two were on their way at the time, and Wang Huan didn't notice Li Feng's embarrassment. When they were almost in town, the road conditions became better and the number of physical contacts between the two gradually decreased. Li Feng secretly breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that he would buy a means of transportation as soon as he received the final payment of 9,000 yuan from Uncle Niu. This will avoid the same embarrassment I almost made today by riding a bike with a woman. When they arrived at the only Chinese medicine store in town, they were warmly welcomed by the owner as soon as they entered the door. The owner of the Chinese medicine store was a middle-aged man in his 40s with a round face and a noticeably fat body. Seeing Wang Huan, the boss greeted her with a smile. Little girl, are you here to get medicine for your aunt again? Li Feng was stunned. Didn't Wang Xiuji say that Wang Huan didn't know how to prescribe medicine and was worried about being cheated? Why is she so familiar with the owner of the Chinese medicine store? Wang Huan also realized this, her face suddenly turned red, and she greeted the man with a blushing face. Fortunately, Li Feng didn't dwell on this matter and just handed the prescription to the man. Boss, follow this prescription. Give me 10 sets. Use only the best herbs. Don't lie to me. I know my stuff. The man smiled and said, don't worry. The herbs here are all carefully selected. My family has been running a Chinese medicine store for 3 generations, so we are absolutely honest. The man took the prescription, read it through, and his eyes suddenly lit up. What a good recipe. It's a really good recipe. This is the first time I've seen such a unique combination of herbs. My dear brother, this is a recipe passed down from your ancestors. It's specially made for treating paralysis of the legs. Li Feng shrugged, you can think of it as an inheritance, so hurry up and get the medicine. The man didn't waste any more words. He picked the medicine quickly and prepared 10 sets of medicinal materials. Li Feng watched the whole process. The quality of medicinal materials in this store is really good. It seems that the man did not lie. 501 in total. Just give me 500, said the man. The price was not expensive, so Wang Huan immediately took out the money and handed it to him. After paying the money, the two were about to take the medicine and leave when suddenly the glass door was kicked open from the outside. A few hooligans walked in, led by a bald man with tattoos on his arms. The bald man had a cigarette in his mouth and looked arrogant. Xu Hao, it's time to pay this month's protection fee. The owner of the Chinese medicine store, Xu Hao, suddenly changed his expression. Master Tiger, didn't you pay once a few days ago? Why do you still need to pay protection money? Bar. The bald man spat on the ground. You ate a few days ago. You won't eat anymore. The younger brother next to him even stepped forward and kicked Xu Hao. You dare to talk back to Master Tiger? You don't want to keep your crappy Chinese medicine store open, right? Even though he was kicked, Xu Hao still had to put on a smile. Where? How dare I talk back to Master Tiger? Everyone knows your name, Master Tiger Qian Dahu. I just want to ask if I can pay it a few days later. Master Tiger, you know that the Chinese medicine here is all high-quality medicinal materials purchased at high prices. I will be restocking soon, and the money I have is just enough to purchase the goods. I really can't pay the protection fee. How about this, wait until next month, and I'll pay more next month, okay? As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Dahu slapped Xu Hao in the face, making him see stars. Fuck you. Xu Hao, did I give you face? Pay it today. And you have to pay double. If you can't pay, I will destroy your crappy store and these crappy drugs. At the end of his speech, Chen Dahu knocked the 10 prescriptions of medicinal materials that had just been packed on the counter to the ground. Li Feng was originally unhappy with Chen Dahu and was considering whether to stand up for Xu Hao. They didn't expect that the other party would actually spill the medicine they bought on the ground. Li Feng's eyes turned cold instantly, and he spoke coldly to Chen Dahu. Your name is Chen Dahu, right? Pick up the medicine you just dropped immediately. As soon as these words were spoken, Chen Dahu and the others were stunned. They couldn't believe that someone dared to speak to Master Hu in such a tone. Kid, who the hell are you talking to? One of Chen Dahu's younger brothers immediately started cursing. Chen Dahu stared at Li Feng with a gloomy look. You are the first person in Pingantown who dares to speak to me, Master Tiger, in this tone. It seems like you are planning to stand up for Xu Hao. Okay. Then you have to pay the protection fee for him. But you have to pay 10 times. If you can't come up with the money, then use this pretty girl next to you to pay off the debt. Let her take turns serving my brothers in the future. Hearing Chen Dahu's words, the thugs under his command were immediately excited. Master Tiger is awesome. Follow Master Tiger and you'll have girls to sleep with every day. Just now I was thinking, this girl is so beautiful. If I could sleep with her, I could even shorten my life by half a year. Har har. Master Tiger isn't interested in women, but he likes to find women for his brothers. We are so lucky to be able to follow Master Tiger. Girl, you're in for a treat tonight. We brothers will take turns serving you. Listening to the disgusting words of these thugs, Wen Huan hid behind Li Feng in fear. Xu Hao was also frightened and hurried to persuade Chen Dahu. Master Tiger, you are a magnanimous person, so don't bother with young people. I will pay the protection fee, can't I pay double? Unexpectedly, Chen Dahu slapped him in the face again. When is it your turn to interrupt me? Boy, you make your choice. Do you want to pay 10 times the protection fee now, or use the girl behind you to pay off the debt? Choose one of the two ways. Chen Dahu said coldly. Li Feng glanced at him and said, I won't pay protection fees, and I won't use anyone to pay off my debts. So I choose the third way. That is to beat you up. You're looking for death, kid. Chen Dahu was furious. Brothers, come on. Beat you to death. At his command, several thugs immediately rushed towards Li Feng. Li Feng took a step forward and responded calmly, blocking a gangster's fist and then elbowing him with his backhand. The gangster fell to the ground screaming. Other thugs also rushed over, but they were no match for Li Feng and were all knocked down by Li Feng soon. Seeing Li Feng so brave, Chen Dahu was not afraid, but his face was full of fighting spirit. Good. Very good. I didn't expect that there is a master like you in such a small town like Pingan. Take my punch. He rushed towards Li Feng with a quick step and punched him with great force. Chen Dahu has learned martial arts and his fighting skills are among the best in Pingan town. Ordinary people can't even take a few moves in front of him. But today, he finally met his match. Facing Chen Dahu's heavy punch, Li Feng also responded with a punch. With his fists crossed, Chen Dahu's face changed instantly. Li Feng was actually stronger than him. The powerful force made Chen Dahu retreat repeatedly, and he took 7 or 8 steps back before he could stand firm. Chapter 13. But Li Feng still stood there steadily, his figure did not change. Chen Dahu looked at Li Feng opposite him in shock. He didn't expect that Li Feng's strength was even greater than his. Impossible. In Pingan Town, no one can defeat me, Chen Dahu. Chen Dahu roared and rushed forward again. Li Feng came forward with a sneer, and the two quickly exchanged a few moves. Chen Dahu became more and more frightened as the fight went on. Li Feng's strength and speed were both superior to his. How can we fight this? Just as he was about to admit defeat, Li Feng suddenly accelerated and punched Chen Dahu in the left cheek, followed by a knee kick that knocked him to the ground. Chen Dahu covered his stomach and screamed, regretting why he didn't admit defeat earlier. Seeing Li Feng walking towards him, Chen Dahu thought he wanted to kill him again, so he quickly begged for mercy. Brother. Master. I give in. I, Chen Dahu, am no match for you. I will not accept protection fees from Xu Hao anymore. No more. The thugs who were also lying on the ground around them felt their worldview collapse when they saw that their idolized tiger lord actually begged Li Feng for mercy. Li Feng looked at Chen Dahu with interest. No more protection fees. Then should the previous protection fees be returned? When Chen Dahu learned that he had to pay back the protection money, his face fell, but he had no choice but to accept it. I'll pay it back. I'll pay it back. I'll call someone to send the money over right now. Li Feng turned to look at Xu Hao. How much protection money did Chen Dahu collect from you in the past? Xu Hao had not yet recovered from the shock he had just experienced. When he heard Li Feng's question, he answered subconsciously. I was paid 1,000 a month for protection, and that's almost 2 years in total. That's almost 20,000 in total. As soon as the words came out of his mouth, Xu Hao wanted to slap himself in the face. Why did you just say it out loud? Won't Chen Dahu bear a grudge against him now? Xu Hao hurriedly shouted to Chen Dahu, Master Hu, I don't want the 20,000 yuan. Not a cent. Chen Dahu glared at him. If you don't want it, won't this force this young master to cause trouble for me? You must take it. Xu Hao was anxious. If the money really fell into his hands, would Chen Dahu forgive him in the future? He suddenly had an idea and pointed at Li Feng. Master Tiger. Give this money to this little brother. Little brother, you must accept this money. If you refuse to accept it, I will just bang my head against the wall and die. As Xu Hao said this, he pretended to bang his head against the wall, which made Li Feng laugh and cry. He stopped Xu Hao and said, just accept it with confidence. I guarantee that Chen Dahu won't dare to cause you any trouble again. Little brother. You, stop pushing me. Wait, I remember you can prescribe medicine to treat diseases, right? How about this? I'll hire you as an external Chinese medicine practitioner, and the 20,000 will be considered as an advance of 1 year's salary for you. Just come to the store when you are free, is this okay? Xu Hao was almost crying. Li Feng was amused. He didn't expect Xu Hao to be so cowardly that he didn't even dare to take back the protection money he paid. He shrugged and said, okay. I'll leave you my phone number later. If you encounter a patient that you can't cure in your store, just call me. Based on Li Feng's medical skills, it would be worth it even if we spent 200,000 to hire him, let alone 20,000. Xu Hao obviously didn't realize this and mistakenly thought that Li Feng meant to call Chen Dahu if he came to cause trouble again. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief. That's a good feeling. That's a good feeling. At this time, the younger brother who was responsible for delivering the money hurried over and was dumbfounded when he saw the scene in front of him. The once invincible boss Tiger Lord actually humbled himself to a young man. Young man, here is 20,000 yuan. Please keep it. Chen Dahu's tone was flattering. Li Feng took the money casually, pinched it to feel its thickness, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Great. 20,000 is enough. You can go away now. If you dare to cause trouble in the Chinese medicine store again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Chen Dahu felt as if he had been pardoned and quickly told his brothers to leave. After they left, Li Feng handed the money to Xu Hao again. Xu Hao was so scared that his face turned pale. He took a few steps back as if the money was hot and waved his hands repeatedly. Little brother, didn't we agree on this? This money is for me to hire you as a Chinese medicine doctor. You must accept it. Li Feng shrugged, okay. I'll leave you my phone number, and you can call me if you have any questions. He took out his cell phone out of habit, but it was empty. After being a fool for 2 years, he had lost his cell phone long ago. Seeing this, Wang Huan walked forward with a smile and gave her cell phone number to Xu Hao. Boss Xu, if you need to contact Li Feng in the future, you can call me and I will tell him for you. Xu Hao nodded hurriedly and carefully kept the phone number. Who knows, this phone call may save your life someday. After picking up the herbs on the ground, Li Feng and his companion left the Chinese medicine store. After going out, Li Feng's first words were, Wang Huan, go buy me a cell phone. Wang Huan readily agreed. Li Feng had just earned 20,000 yuan, so shouldn't it be easy for him to buy a mobile phone? There was a mobile phone store in the town. Li Feng went into the store and randomly picked out the latest domestically produced phone for 3,000 yuan. I went to China Mobile next door and applied for a new card. With a smartphone in hand, Li Feng felt that he was reconnected with society. It's really impossible to live without a mobile phone these days. At Wang Huan's suggestion, Li Feng also applied for a bank card from the Rural Credit Cooperative and deposited 10,000 yuan into it. As for the remaining 7,000, he had another great use for it. On their way back, Li Feng still rode the bike with Wang Huan, and they were bound to have another intimate contact. However, the two of them had already had this experience once, so this time it didn't seem so awkward. It was almost noon when they arrived at the village. Li Feng sent Wang Huan to her doorstep and made an appointment with her to go to her house the next morning to treat Wang Xiuji's leg. Just before parting, Li Feng suddenly called Wang Huan. "Wait! There's something I almost forgot." Wang Huan turned around and looked at Li Feng in confusion. "What is it?" Li Feng took out the remaining 7,000 yuan from his pocket, counted out 5,000 yuan and handed it to Wang Huan. "Take these 5,000 first and return them to Zhao Taigang later." Wang Huan was stunned. She didn't expect that Li Feng would be willing to give her this money. "Li Feng, I can't take your money." Wang Huan shook her head and took 2 steps back. "You've helped me so much, I can't accept any more money from you." Looking at Wang Huan's determined face, Li Feng couldn't help but be moved. If it were any other woman, she would have probably taken the money with excitement. It's rare to find a girl like Wang Huan who is not greedy for money. Li Feng smiled and grabbed Wang Huan's little hand and put the money in her palm. "This is not for you. I'm lending it to you. You have to return it later. Just accept it with peace of mind." After saying that, Li Feng patted her shoulder, turned around and left gracefully. Wang Huan stared blankly in the direction where Li Feng left, her beautiful big eyes already filled with tears. Chapter 14. At this moment, Wang Huan secretly made a decision in her heart that she wanted to repay Li Feng. But given her current situation, there is probably only one way for her to repay Li Feng. Li Feng was in a very good mood after going to the town, earning 20,000 yuan for nothing and helping Wang Huan out of an urgent need. When passing by a small restaurant in the village, he packed up 2 stir-fried dishes and got half a box of beer, preparing to reward himself later. After returning home, Li Feng opened a bottle of beer, took a sip, ate a bite of food, and then took a bite of the scallion pancake that Wang Huan had brought him in the morning. What a treat! Unexpectedly, before I finished a bottle of beer, trouble came. Someone pushed open the door and walked in, starting shouting. "Frenzy? Come out! I'm your second uncle." Hearing the voice of his second uncle Li Zhongder, Li Feng frowned and a trace of disgust flashed in his eyes. Li Zhongder took away his family's 10 acres of fertile land and promised in front of the village elders that he would take good care of his food, clothing and daily life. What's the result? Just 1 basket of cornmeal steamed buns a week. Not only is the quantity small and unpalatable, but it also easily gets moldy in the summer. Li Feng has no good feelings towards his second uncle at all. He put down his chopsticks, stood up and walked to the yard, wanting to see what Li Zhongder was up to. Li Zhongder was looking around the yard and nodding his head. "Not bad, not bad. This yard has a good location and a large area." Li Feng came out with a cold face. "What do you want from me?" Seeing Li Feng's indifferent expression, Li Zhongder also frowned. "Frenzy, how can you talk to me, your second uncle? You don't even call me second uncle." Li Feng sneered. "Second uncle? Can you bear it? You are going to take away 10 acres of my family's good land and promise to take care of my food and clothing. In the end, you tricked me with cornmeal steamed bread. Not only did I not have enough to eat, but I also had to eat moldy steamed bread in the summer. How dare you let me call you second uncle? Do you want me to call all the elders in the village right now and let them judge whether you are worthy of being my second uncle?" Li Zhongder's face suddenly changed. If he really called the village elders, he would be in trouble. He quickly coughed and changed the subject. "Frenzy, actually, second uncle's family also eats steamed bread. Let's not talk about this. I came to you this time for an important matter. Your cousin Li Lei is about to get married, but he still hasn't found a house. The residential land allocated by the village is too small and the location is too remote. So I want you to move to my place, and let your yard be used by your cousin to build a new house for his wedding. Don't worry, I'll build you a tin house under the gate. It won't be blown by the wind or rained on. It's much better than living in this shabby house." Hearing his shameless words, Li Feng almost laughed out loud. He was asked to give his yard to his cousin Li Lei, and to live in the tin house under the gate. Isn't this asking him to be the doorman for Li Zhongder's family? It's a good thing that Li Zhongder could think of this. "Li Zhongder, have you taken the wrong medicine? I leave my nice yard at home and go live in your house as the gatehouse? What are you thinking? Li Feng simply called him by his name. Li Zhongder's face suddenly turned gloomy. Li Feng, I am your second uncle, how dare you call me by my name? You really don't respect your parents. I thought you were still the top student you were 2 years ago. You're no longer a college student now. Look at my son Li Lei. Even though he only graduated from a technical school, he is already a technician at the town's machinery factory. In a few years, he will be able to become a workshop director. If you give up the yard to my son for his wedding, he may help you find a job as a laborer in the machinery factory in the future. If you don't agree, humph, you don't have a diploma, and you don't have savings. Sooner or later you will starve to death. You won't even be able to eat cornmeal steamed buns. At the end of his speech, Li Zhongder had a smug look on his face, as if he had already seen Li Feng being humble in front of him. But he didn't notice that Li Feng opposite him had a speechless look on his face. Li Zhongder, give up this idea. I won't give the yard to you. I won't need your help in the future. From now on, I will just pretend that I don't have any relatives like you. Li Feng curled his lips. Seeing him turn around and go back to their house, Li Zhongder became furious. Li Feng, I want your yard. If you dare not give it to me, I will make sure you can't stay in the village anymore. Hearing him say this, Li Feng stopped and took out 2 short silver needles from his pocket without leaving any trace. Li Zhongder, you are my uncle, but you are threatening me, your nephew, like this. Aren't you afraid that my parents in heaven will punish you? Li Zhongder grinned. What do you mean by spirits in heaven? If the elder couple really have spirits, just let them punish me. As soon as he finished speaking, a cold light flashed in Li Feng's eyes, and he flicked the silver needle in his hand. 2 silver lights flashed and instantly sank into Li Zhongder's head. Li Feng's movement was so small that Li Zhongder didn't notice it at all. The next moment, he suddenly screamed, held his head with both hands, and rolled on the ground in pain. It hurts so much. It hurts so much. My head is about to explode. Li Zhongder's screams were almost as loud as a pig being slaughtered. The noise he made soon attracted the surrounding villagers to watch. Everyone was surprised to see Li Zhongder rolling on the ground in pain in Li Feng's yard. What happened to Li Zhongder? Could it be that he was beaten by his nephew Li Feng? It doesn't look like that. He's in so much pain. If he was really beaten, his head would have been broken and bleeding. This is definitely not from being beaten. I was hit on the head with a club, and even though my head was broken, I didn't roll on the ground in pain. Even Zhao Cheng and Shudoni who lived next door came to watch. Shudoni asked about Li Feng with concern on her face. Fengzi, what's going on? Li Feng sneered and said, it's very simple. It's not enough that Li Zhongder took away 10 acres of our land. Now he wants to take my yard. My parents in heaven couldn't bear to see this, so they gave him a little punishment. In my opinion, unless someone takes the initiative to admit his mistakes, my parents will not forgive him. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but secretly gasp in amazement, wondering how could this be possible. No way. This is too bizarre, right? I don't believe it. Oh. You young people nowadays don't believe this or that, but you should know that there are gods above your heads in this world. That's right. Li Zhongder took away his nephew's 10 acres of land and wanted to take his yard. His elder brother in heaven couldn't stand it anymore and punished him. Maybe the one who punished Li Zhongder wasn't his elder brother, but the ancestor of the Li family. Everyone was talking at once, and most people believed that Li Zhongder was punished by God. Li Zhongder, who was rolling on the ground in pain, gradually believed this statement. This matter was really too weird. Li Feng didn't touch him at all, but he suddenly had a splitting headache. Could it be that his elder brother and sister-in-law were really punishing him? Chapter 15. Thinking of this, Li Zhongder shouted while enduring the severe pain. Brother! Sister-in-law! I was wrong. I will never set my sights on your yard again. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. I kowtow to you. I kowtow to you. Li Zhongder struggled to get up from the ground and kowtowed desperately at the door of Li Feng's main hall. Seeing that the food was almost cooked, Li Feng walked over to Li Zhongder and patted him on the shoulder. Li Zhongder, you have to apologize sincerely. If you're not sincere enough, my parents won't forgive you. On the surface, he patted Li Zhongder's shoulder, but in fact he used his clever strength to force out the 2 silver needles on his head. Li Feng slapped down with his palm, and the silver needle was forced out on the spot and fell to the ground. Li Zhongde continued to kowtow. After kowtowed a few more times, he suddenly found that his head didn't hurt anymore. He touched his head with a look of surprise on his face. My head doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't hurt anymore. Li Feng, who was standing by, crossed his arms and sneered, Li Zhongde, have you forgotten what I just said to you? Li Zhongde was so frightened that he trembled all over. He kowtowed 3 times respectfully towards the main hall, then he got up from the ground and ran away in embarrassment. As for the matter of trying to seize Li Feng's yard, he naturally didn't dare to mention it again. Seeing this, the villagers also believed that it was Li Feng's parents who were punishing Li Zhongde. Everyone greeted Li Feng and left while talking. Only Zhao Cheng and Xu Dongni stayed. Seeing that they were busy, Li Feng simply invited them into their house to have dinner together. The two were quite surprised to see that there was wine and food on the table. Xu Dongni's beautiful eyes flickered and the look she gave Li Feng became even more charming. He is really worthy of being the man she likes. After being a fool for 2 years, he has just recovered for 2 days and his life is so comfortable. He is really capable. After drinking a glass of beer, Zhao Cheng finally told his purpose. Fengzi, when are you going to cure me? I heard that Hu Yanmei's daughter Li Yeye was bitten by a poisonous snake, and it was you who cured her. After learning the news, Zhao Cheng expressed his excitement. I originally thought that Li Feng was just talking casually, but I didn't expect that his medical skills were so amazing. If Li Feng can really cure Zhao Cheng, then everyone will be happy. So, Zhao Cheng, who couldn't sit still, took the initiative to go to him. Speaking of medical treatment, Li Feng couldn't help but smile. Brother Cheng, don't worry. I already have a plan for your treatment. But your condition is quite serious, so you need a special medicine. It will take a few days for this medicine to be ready. I will definitely treat you then. Zhao Cheng's eyes lit up when he heard this. Okay. It's settled then. I'll be waiting for your good news. Zhao Cheng, in a good mood, drank 3 or 4 bottles of beer, but forgot that he could not drink at all, and finally passed out at the dinner table. Li Feng had no choice but to carry him back to the next room with Xu Dongni. After sending Zhao Cheng to bed, Li Feng prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, just as he walked into the main room, Xu Dongni suddenly called him. Fengzi, don't leave yet. I have something to tell you. Li Feng turned around and asked her puzzledly. Sister-in-law Dongni, what do you want to say? Xu Dongni glanced at Zhao Cheng lying on the bed in the bedroom, suddenly closed the bedroom door, and pointed at the sofa. Sit down and talk. Li Feng was puzzled, but still sat down as she asked. Unexpectedly, Xu Dongni was sitting next to Li Feng, and very close to him. At such a close distance, Li Feng could even smell the scent of shower gel coming from Xu Dongni's body. Sister Dong and I, what do you want to say? Li Feng was a little alert. Xu Dongni looked at him affectionately and said, Sister-in-law just wanted to ask you, when you said you could cure your brother Cheng's illness, was it true or was it just to comfort him? When Li Feng learned that Xu Dongni was going to ask about this, he couldn't help but laugh. Of course it's true. How could I lie to him about something like this? If Brother Cheng knew that I was lying to him, he would definitely fight me to death. Xu Dongni's expression suddenly became serious, but even if you can cure your brother Cheng, he may not be able to make me pregnant. Why? Li Feng was a little surprised. Xu Dongni sighed, when your brother Cheng went to the city to see a doctor, the doctor secretly told me that he was born with low sperm motility. Even if he is cured, it will be difficult for him to get pregnant. Li Feng was stunned. He didn't expect this to happen. It's okay, I'll treat him when the time comes, maybe I can cure him. Li Feng said after thinking for a while. He didn't dare to guarantee it, he could only say to give it a try. Unexpectedly, Xu Dongni suddenly came over and said, Fengzi, in order to ensure that my sister-in-law can get pregnant, let's take double insurance. She suddenly leaned forward like this, and the clothes she was wearing were loose, so a large area of her body was exposed at her neckline. Li Feng's eyes became numb from watching so much that he quickly looked away. Sister-in-law, what does double insurance mean? Xu Dongni simply stopped pretending and sat directly on his lap face to face, breathing sweetly. It means that I want you to help my sister-in-law. Fengzi, you are a grown man with such a great body, you must need a woman, right? My sister-in-law is not bad either. Many men in the village have set their sights on her. But my sister-in-law doesn't like them and only likes you. Fengzi, take your sister-in-law. While your brother Cheng is drunk, he won't know what we do. Looking at the beautiful Shudongni in front of him, Li Feng swallowed hard. With a beauty in your arms, and such a beautiful and sexy young woman, any normal man would not be able to help but react. Shudongni's beautiful eyes were suddenly filled with desire. Fengzi, sister-in-law knows what you want. Sister-in-law wants it more than you do. Come and take sister-in-law. As she said that, she actually moved forward and wanted to kiss Li Feng. Seeing that Shudongni's lips were about to touch Li Feng's lips, Li Feng finally came to his senses. He pushed Shudongni away and stood up. Sister-in-law Dongni, we are so sorry to brother Cheng. I'm leaving first. After saying that, Li Feng turned around and ran out, not even daring to look back at Shudongni. Shudongni stared blankly at Li Feng's departing figure, and suddenly she covered her mouth and laughed. Fengzi, you're so cute. Even though your body is reacting so strongly, you still refuse to have sex with me. But the more you do this, the more I want to have sex with him. In the past, Shudongni would have been very happy to know that Zhao Cheng's illness could be cured. But ever since she witnessed Li Feng's mighty and majestic appearance, and saw how capable he was, the balance in Shudongni's heart completely tilted towards Li Feng. She even felt a little regretful. If Li Feng couldn't cure Zhao Cheng, she could go to bed with Li Feng with a clear conscience. Chapter 16. As for Li Feng, he returned home in a mess, and the first thing he did was to pour himself a glass of beer to calm himself down. Li Feng really didn't expect that Shudongni actually took the initiative to seduce him into bed. As long as Li Feng agreed, the two of them might have started fighting by now. Oh. It's still because of the child. Li Feng couldn't help but sigh. He still thinks that Shudongni wanted a child so much that she was almost going crazy. Little did she know that what Shudongni wanted was not the child, but him. While Li Feng was drinking to calm himself, Li Zhongde was also drinking alone at home. When his wife Wang Suiping came back from her parents' home and saw Li Zhongde drinking, her face immediately fell. All you do is drink. How's the thing you were asked to do going? Is the old man's yard coming over? When talking about the yard, Li Zhongde couldn't help but reveal a look of fear. The yard, don't mention the yard. Wang Suiping frowned. What's the matter? You didn't get the yard. Didn't you tell Li Feng that if you give us the yard, Lei will arrange a general worker position for him in the machinery factory in the future? Li Zhongde couldn't help but smile bitterly. I said it. I said it all. But Li Feng disagreed. And. Wang Suiping cursed, it's really a fart. And what? Li Zhongde sighed and told Li Feng everything about his previous experience at his home. Wang Suiping was also shocked after hearing this. Are you telling the truth? Did the eldest and his wife really punish you? Oh. I don't know if that's the case. Anyway, my head suddenly felt like it was splitting apart and I rolled on the ground in pain. Many people in the village saw it. Li Zhongde said as he picked up the wine glass in front of him and drank it all. Wang Suiping's expression was solemn. If this is true, do you think the eldest and his wife know that we plotted against Li Feng to make him a fool? After hearing Wang Suiping talk about this, Li Zhongde stood up and covered her mouth. What nonsense are you talking about, bitch? Can you tell anyone about this? Wang Suiping pushed him away with a sneer on her face. Don't worry, there's no one at the next door. Besides, it wasn't us who turned Li Feng into a fool. The person who paid us was the mastermind behind it. Li Zhongde's face was serious. We still don't know where that man came from. We only know that he gave us 20,000 yuan and asked us to tamper with Li Feng's electric car. I didn't expect that just after the manipulation, the next day when Li Feng was riding his electric bike to the county, he got into a car accident and became a fool. Think about it, that person was able to easily pay 20,000 yuan to bribe us. He must not be an ordinary person. If this matter is leaked out, don't say that Li Feng will deal with us. That mysterious man alone could easily take care of our family of 3. Speaking of the terrifying mysterious man, Wang Suiping didn't dare to speak nonsense. That's all right. We can just not talk about it anymore. But how do we get Li Feng's yard? Our Lei said that if we don't build a luxurious yard, he would rather not get married for the rest of his life. Li Zhongde sneered. I had already thought of an idea when I was drinking alone just now. Li Feng is too arrogant. Not only did he not give us face, he also beat up Zhao Taigang and his gang. Can he afford to offend Zhao Taigang? Just wait and see. I'll give Zhao Taigang some advice later. He will have to deal with Li Feng sooner or later. Wang Suiping nodded in satisfaction. As expected, you are the one who is shrewd and cunning. Li Feng, that young boy, is far inferior to you. He. Of course. Li Zhongde proudly poured a glass of wine and drank it all. Chapter 17. The next morning came in a flash, and Li Feng came to Wang Huan's house, ready to treat Wang Xiuji's leg. Wang Xiuji's legs were disabled and her nerves were damaged due to the accident. In order to cure her, we had to use acupuncture to repair her damaged nerves, and at the same time use herbal medicine to restore her vitality and unclog her meridians. Seeing Li Feng coming, Wang Huan seemed particularly happy, with a smile on her pretty face. Li Feng, you're here. Li Feng smiled and nodded. I'll treat Aunt Wang. You go to the kitchen and prepare the medicine first. Wang Huan nodded obediently, and according to Li Feng's instructions, she took out a packet of medicine and poured it into the casserole, boiling 3 bowls of water into 1 bowl of water. After she put the herbs and water in place, she accompanied Li Feng into the house to give Wang Xiuji acupuncture. Li Feng asked Wang Huan to take off Wang Xiuji's socks and pull her pants up above her knees, then he took out the acupuncture box and prepared to give acupuncture. Under the gaze of the two, Li Feng grabbed a silver needle and casually stabbed it into Wang Xiuji's leg. The silver needle accurately penetrated the Zhusanli acupoint on her right leg. Zhusanli is an important acupuncture point on the leg. To treat the legs, you must first open up Zhusanli. Another silver needle was inserted into the Zhusanli acupoint on Wang Xiuji's left leg. Wang Huan was completely stunned. When she sent Wang Xiuji to the county hospital for treatment, the doctor had also tried acupuncture. But they have to work very hard to insert a needle. First they have to identify the acupuncture point, then insert the silver needle, and then slowly rotate the silver needle left and right to insert it deep inside. But what about Li Feng? He just stabbed it casually, and the silver needle hit the acupuncture point accurately, and penetrated deep into the wood. Wang Xiuji and Wang Huan looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Li Feng's acupuncture technique is so advanced that it is obvious that he is no match for ordinary doctors. It seems that there is really hope for Wang Xiuji's leg to be cured. A moment later, as the last silver needle was pulled out and placed in the acupuncture box, Li Feng clapped his hands. Aunt Wang, can you feel your legs now? Li Feng asked Wang Xiuji. Wang Xiuji shook her head. I don't know if she was conscious or not. At this time, Wang Huan reached out and pinched Wang Xiuji's calf. Wang Xiuji suddenly cried out, I can feel it. I can feel my legs. Although it's only a little bit, I can feel someone pinching me. Upon learning that just one acupuncture treatment could restore sensation to Wang Xiuji's legs, Wang Huan was so excited that she almost cried. Auntie, you will be able to stand up again soon. You will be able to stand up again soon. Wang Huan shouted excitedly. Li Feng, however, poured cold water on her. You'll have to wait a while before you can stand up. Now you've only regained some feeling, which proves that the nerves in Aunt Wang's legs are beginning to recover. I will give Aunt Wang acupuncture every 3 days, and she should continue to take medicine every day. After about 10 days, Aunt Wang should be able to try to move her legs. But if you want to get out of bed and walk, you have to take medicine for at least another month or 2. And although you can move around normally in the future, you can't do heavy work anymore. Even so, Wang Xiuji was still so excited that she burst into tears. It's okay. It's okay now. As long as I can get out of bed and walk, and no longer be a burden to Xiao Huan, my old bones will be satisfied. Chapter 18. Hearing Wang Xiuji say this, Wang Huan wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Aunt, how can you say that you are burden? You are my only relative in this world. I will take care of you in the future. Wang Xiuji also laughed. Yes, I will take care of your children in the future. As she said this, she glanced at Li Feng. Noticing Wang Xiuji's eyes, Wang Huan's pretty face turned red with embarrassment. She certainly didn't understand what her aunt meant. In fact, she also had a good impression of Li Feng, and even thought about repaying Li Feng with her body. But when she thought about her illness, Wang Huan's originally warm heart was like a bucket of cold water poured on it. She has always had a congenital heart disease and has been to many hospitals, but the doctors all said that the disease cannot be cured. How could she, who has a congenital heart disease, be worthy of a capable and handsome young man like Li Feng? Seeing that the treatment was over, Li Feng said goodbye and left. Wang Huan saw him out and watched him go away before returning to their house. Xiao Huan, it's rare to find a handsome young man like Li Feng, you'd better seize the opportunity. Wang Shuji reminded with a smile. Wang Huan smiled bitterly. Auntie, how can I be worthy of him? Don't forget that I have a heart disease, and it's the kind that can't be cured. The smile on Wang Shuji's face disappeared. Wang Huan's heart disease had not recurred recently. She almost forgot that this poor niece also had a congenital heart disease. What she didn't know was that Wang Huan had suffered a seizure a few days ago, and it was Li Feng who performed emergency treatment on her. At the same time, at the home of Zhao Taigang from the same village. Zhao Taigang was chewing sugarcane and looking at Li Zhongder in front of him with an impatient look. Li Zhongder, why did you come to see me? Don't you know that I will fight against the people in your Li family? I get a headache when I see your father with the surname Li. Li Zhongder laughed and said, Brother Gang, I know who you are talking about. I came here to give you the panacea. Zhao Taigang raised his eyebrows. What kind of panacea is that? Take it out and let us see it. Hey, look what this is. Li Zhongder took out a yellowed IOU like a magician. Zhao Taigang took it and looked at it. I am Li Zhongchen, and I owe Zhao Taigang 100,000 yuan. If you cannot repay the debt, I am willing to pay off the debt with my own house. His eyes suddenly lit up. Is this an IOU written in the name of your eldest brother? That's right. Brother Gang, you can take the IOU to Li Feng to collect the debt. If he can't pay the 100,000 yuan, he will have to give up the house. Li Zhongder smiled. Zhao Taigang frowned. Li Feng is no longer a fool. Can he recognize this IOU whose authenticity is unknown? Li Zhongder sneered. With my uncle here, he has to admit it even if he doesn't want to. I wrote the IOU in the handwriting of my eldest brother, so no one can tell. After the deal is done, their house will belong to me, and I will give you, Brother Gang, a reward of 10,000 yuan. Zhao Taigang glanced at Li Zhongder meaningfully. After all this trouble, it's you who wants to plot against your own nephew. I don't know what sins he committed in his previous life for him to have you as his second uncle. Having said that, Zhao Taigang suddenly hesitated again. Li Feng is such a good fighter. What if he refuses to acknowledge the debt and even takes the IOU away? A trace of contempt flashed in the depths of Li Zhongder's eyes, and he thought that a reckless man was just a reckless man. He had no brains at all. Har har, Brother Gang, have you forgotten that your cousin is the village chief? Call the village chief along when the time comes. How dare he hit people with the village chief around? Plus, with me as a witness for you, that kid Li Feng will have no choice but to admit it. Li Zhongder said with a smile. Zhao Taigang slammed the table excitedly. What a good idea. It's settled. Seeing that Zhao Taigang agreed, Li Zhongder complimented him a few more times and then left with a smug look on his face. Time passed quickly and it was evening. Li Feng was thinking about how to have dinner when he suddenly heard a noisy sound outside. Chapter 19. Li Feng, get out here. Hearing this powerful shout, a cold light flashed in Li Feng's eyes. This guy Zhao Taigang actually dared to come and cause trouble. It seems that the lesson I gave him before was not enough. Li Feng strode out quickly, determined to let Zhao Taigang know today why the flowers were so red. After opening the door, Li Feng was surprised to see several people standing outside. Zhao Taigang was still followed by a few younger brothers, but the person next to him was the village chief Zhao Ping'an. Zhao Ping'an is dressed like an old cadre. He likes to wear a zhongshan suit. When he walks on the street, he always puts his hands behind his back, looking like a leader on an inspection tour. But those who are familiar with him know that this guy has made a lot of money privately by taking advantage of his power as village chief, and he has already built a 2-story house at home. He also bought a car for his son. In the past, Zhao Chigang's tyranny in the village was also due to Zhao Ping'an's tacit approval behind the scenes. Li Feng looked at Zhao Taigang coldly. Zhao Taigang, are you itching for trouble again? Do you want me to beat you up? Zhao Taigang was not afraid at all, instead he shouted arrogantly. Li Feng, don't think you're great just because you can fight. I'm not here to fight with you today, I'm here to collect a debt. He took out the IOU that Li Zhongder gave him from his pocket and pointed at it and shouted. Did you see it? This is the IOU your father, Li Zhongchen, wrote to me. He owed me 100,000 yuan, and it stated that if he couldn't pay me back, he would use the yard as collateral. The noise Zhao Taigang made attracted many villagers to come and watch. Hearing his words, everyone in the village was surprised. What? Li Zhongchen owes Zhao Taigang money? Did I hear that correctly? You heard it right. But Li Zhongchen has been dead for several years. How could he owe Zhao Taigang money? He even owed as much as 100,000 yuan. This is probably a trick. Just wait and see. Most of the villagers expressed disbelief. After all, given Zhao Cheng's character, if Li Zhongqing really owed him money, would he wait until today to come and collect the debt? Li Feng's face turned cold instantly. He didn't expect Zhao Taigang to be so suicidal. Zhao Taigang, you are looking for death. Li Feng squeezed out a few words from between his teeth. He rushed forward in a few quick steps, and before Zhao Taigang could even react, Li Feng grabbed him by the collar and lifted him up, swinging his fist towards Zhao Cheng's face. Unexpectedly, the village chief Zhao Ping'an, who was standing next to him, suddenly shouted, "Li Feng! Stop it! Are you going to commit murder in the street in front of me, the village chief?" Li Feng glanced at Zhao Ping'an and let go of Zhao Taigang. He was not afraid of Zhao Ping'an, but wanted to see what this guy was going to do. "Village chief, Zhao Taigang slandered my father for owing him money. Do you think he should be beaten?" Li Feng said coldly. Zhao Taigang took a few steps back before he dared to continue shouting. "Who slandered your father? He owes me 100,000 yuan. It's written in black and white on the IOU." Zhao Ping'an, who was standing next to him, said in a deep voice, "That's right. I've seen the IOU and compared it with Li Zhongqing's previous signatures. It is indeed his handwriting." Chapter 20. Li Feng sneered, "Do you think I will believe you just because you said that? Everyone in the village knows that you are Zhao Cheng's uncle. I'm afraid you two uncles and nephews have colluded with each other for a long time." As soon as he finished speaking, Li Zhongder's voice rang out in the crowd. "I can prove that Zhao Cheng's IOU is real. I was there when my eldest brother wrote the IOU." He walked out of the crowd and looked at Li Feng with a sneer on his face. At this point, Li Feng didn't understand that all this was planned by Li Zhongder behind the scenes. That IOU was probably made by Li Zhongder, otherwise he wouldn't have specifically stated that the house would be used to pay off the debt. Everyone heard it, right? Even Li Feng's second uncle stood up to testify for me. "Li Feng, what else do you have to say now?" Zhao Taigang looked proud. The attitude of the onlookers also began to change. Could this IOU be real? The village chief and Li Feng's second uncle both came out to testify, and the handwriting on it does look a lot like Li Zhongqing's. It could be true, right? Anything can happen these days. Li Feng was a fool a few days ago, but isn't he still eloquent now? I still don't believe it. If Zhao Taigang had this IOU, he would have taken the house from Li Feng's family long ago. Why would he have waited until today? The villagers were talking about it, and Zhao Cheng and his wife next door were standing at their doorstep watching the fun. Xu Doni looked at Li Feng with a worried look on her face. Zhao Cheng, Zhao Taigang and Li Zhongder obviously teaming up to plot against Fengzi. Can you think of any way to help him? Upon hearing this, Zhao Cheng's face suddenly changed, and he hurriedly whispered to persuade him. "Please don't talk nonsense. We can't afford to offend Zhao Taigang, let alone the village chief. Let's not get involved in Li Feng's affairs." Seeing that he was so disloyal, Xu Dongni's tone was a little angry. "Zhao Cheng, why are you talking like that? Fengzi even said he would help you get well, but you don't even think about repaying him, and you're saying this?" Zhao Cheng said sternly, "Let's put it this way. If he can cure my illness, I will definitely give him several thousand yuan for the consultation. But if he wants me to offend Zhao Taigang and the village chief for him, that's impossible." Xu Doni looked at Zhao Cheng in shock. At this moment, Zhao Cheng made her feel so strange. With Li Zhongder as a witness in the crowd, Zhao Ping'an felt more confident. He acted like a village chief and said, "Li Feng, it is only natural to pay back a debt. If you can come up with 100,000 yuan, return it to Zhao Taigang immediately. If you can't come up with the money, I'm afraid you'll have to use your yard as collateral. How about this, we're all from the same village, I won't force you. I'll give you 3 days. If you can't come up with 100,000 yuan in 3 days, you have to vacate the yard. It's settled." Seeing that the village chief had made the decision, the onlookers looked at Li Feng with pity. Li Feng was really miserable. Not only was he targeted by both the black and white gangs in the village, but he was also stabbed in the back by his own uncle. If they knew that Li Zhongder was the culprit from beginning to end, the expressions on their faces would definitely be interesting. Li Zhongder looked at Li Feng with anticipation. He was waiting for Li Feng to surrender. After all, faced with iron evidence and pressure from the village chief, Li Feng had no choice but to accept the result. Just at this moment, Li Feng turned his head and glanced at Li Zhongder. Good job, Li Zhongder, you really know how to have fun. Li Feng said coldly. Hearing this, Li Zhongder looked very disappointed. Fengzi, it's fine that you don't pay back the money you owe, but you actually call me your second uncle by my name. Have you been going to school for nothing all these years? Li Feng curled his lips and said, Don't worry, it's not in vain. Isn't it just a forged IOU? I can't tell it apart, can't the police officers at the police station tell it apart? Chapter 21. I'll call the police station right now and ask them to take it back and use professional equipment to check if this IOU is forged. A friendly reminder to you, the handwriting can be verified. If the police find that the handwriting is recent, not a few years ago, then you will be suspected of fraud. And the amount is huge. When that happens, all of you present here will be punished. No one can escape. 3 to 5 years in prison is the least you can do. At the end, Li Feng took out his cell phone from his pocket and pretended to call the police station. Seeing this, Zhao Taigang was the first to get anxious. After all, his name was written on the IOU. If Li Feng really calls the police, and then it is found out that the IOU was forged recently, Zhao Taigang will definitely bear the main responsibility. No. Don't call the police. I remembered it wrongly. This IOU was not written by your father, but by another man named Li Zhongder in the town. Isn't it okay that I don't ask you to pay back the money? Zhao Taigang said hurriedly. Zhao Ping'an and Li Zhongder next to him also had grim expressions. They didn't expect that Li Feng actually understood this. This time they failed to extort money and ended up getting themselves into trouble. Zhao Taigang was scared, but Li Feng didn't intend to let him go. Instead, he said with a sneer on his face. Zhao Taigang, do you think I will believe this kind of trick to deceive children? As long as I have the IOU, you can't argue. His words reminded Zhao Taigang, who crumpled the IOU into a ball and stuffed it into his mouth, chewed it hard a few times and swallowed it with difficulty. Seeing him swallow the IOU on the spot, the villagers who were watching were all dumbfounded. Is this okay? Li Feng crossed his arms, looking like he was watching a joke. It was not until Zhao Taigang had swallowed the IOU that he said to Li Zhongder with a smile. Uncle, your idea is really good. This is how a scum like Zhao Taigang should be taught a lesson. I'll go back and prepare 2 dishes, and we'll have a drink together later. After saying this, without waiting for Li Zhongder to react, Li Feng turned around and went back home, locking the door from the inside. At the same time, Zhao Taigang glared at Li Zhongder angrily. You are such a jerk, Li Zhongder. You said you would help me teach Li Feng a lesson, but in fact you conspired with Li Feng to trick me. I won't let you off. He roared and rushed towards Li Zhongder, kicked him to the ground, and continued to attack him while riding on him. Brother Gang, you misunderstood. Ouch. Li Zhongder screamed and tried to explain, but was met with a heavy punch from Zhao Taigang. When Zhao Chigang's younger brothers saw their eldest brother being humiliated, they also ordered their men to rush forward and surround Li Zhongder and kick him. Only the village chief Zhao Ping'an, who was standing nearby, had a grim face. He could see that Li Feng was trying to sow discord. But the problem was that this reckless man Zhao Taigang moved too quickly, and Zhao Ping'an was too late to stop him. But then he thought that Li Zhongder had embarrassed them both in public, so he deserved a beating. The onlookers were all watching the fun. The smart ones had already figured out what was going on, but they just didn't say it out loud. Li Zhongder is such a bad guy. He actually helped outsiders to plot against his own nephew. He deserves this beating. Xu Dongni, who was far away, saw this scene and finally felt relieved. I'm glad Li Feng is okay. Chapter 22. She glanced at Zhao Cheng, who was watching the fun beside her. Li Feng was so good to Zhao Cheng, but he righteously rejected her offer of love and even offered to treat Zhao Cheng. But what about Zhao Cheng? At the critical moment, he didn't even think about helping Li Feng, but just watched the fun from the sidelines. The next morning, Li Feng was still sleeping soundly in bed when he heard the sound of people selling stinky tofu and fermented tofu outside. He woke up suddenly and thought to himself that he had finally waited for something. Li Feng hurriedly put on his clothes and went out, calling out to a street vendor selling stinky tofu. Wait! I want to buy stinky tofu. The vendor said with a smile, Great. Young man, you really know what you are doing. My family has been making stinky tofu for generations. We have used the same pot of brine for decades. Li Feng raised his eyebrows. I'm not only buying stinky tofu, I'm also buying your pot of decades-old brine. The peddler was startled and looked Li Feng up and down, thinking that he was a colleague who came to steal business secrets. Seeing this, Li Feng simply explained, "I don't need much, just a small cup. This is used as a medicine inducer. I have a friend who is in poor health and needs your pot of decades-old brine as a medicine inducer." The vendor suddenly realized, "So that's how it is. But I don't have it with me, why don't I bring it to you tomorrow?" "Forget it. I happen to be free today, so I'll go home with you to get the brine. Don't worry, I won't let you work in vain. I'll pay you," Li Feng said after thinking for a while. The friend he was talking about was Zhao Cheng. The reason why we said that it would take a few days before treating Zhao Cheng was to wait for the brine for making stinky tofu, which was passed down from our ancestors. When he arrived at the peddler's house, Li Feng got the brine as he wished, and threw 200 yuan to the peddler before leaving. After returning to the village with the brine, Li Feng immediately went up the mountain to prepare other medicinal materials. Zhao Cheng's condition is special, and the medicinal materials he needs are also special. It took Li Feng a whole morning to prepare all their medicinal materials. Li Feng had lunch at Zhao Cheng's house. He had spent so much effort preparing the medicinal materials, so it was only natural for him to have a meal with Zhao Cheng. Upon learning that Li Feng had prepared medicinal herbs to treat him, Zhao Cheng was so excited that he clamored for a drink to celebrate. However, Li Feng told him that he must quit drinking and smoking in the near future. Compared to the excited Zhao Cheng, Shudongni seemed much calmer. Especially after what happened yesterday, Shudongni became even more disappointed with Zhao Cheng. After dinner, Li Feng went home and brought back all the prepared medicinal herbs. When Zhao Cheng and his wife saw the medicinal herbs Li Feng brought, they were both stunned. Li Feng wasn't looking for medicinal herbs at all, he was just moving all the 5 poisonous creatures from the back mountain down. That's right, all the medicinal herbs Li Feng found for Zhao Cheng were the 5 poisons. Poisonous snakes, scorpions, centipedes, spiders. Zhao Cheng looked at Li Feng with a pale face. "Fengzi, this is the medicinal herb you found for me. You want me to eat this stuff?" Li Feng smiled and nodded, "Yes. That's it. Brother Cheng, don't look at these as poisonous substances, but they can cure your injuries with poison. You were injured in an accident, causing the nerves in that area to die. If you want to revive the nerves, you have to fight poison with poison. Oh, and there's also a medicine inducer. You're lucky to have found one today. Decades-old stinky tofu brine." He took out a small bottle of brine from his pocket, and just as he opened the lid, a strong and foul odor wafted out. Zhao Cheng covered his nose and ran out. Chapter 23. Frenzy? Are you kidding me? Poison and stinky tofu. Is this medicine for people? If you don't know how to treat people, just say so. Don't play tricks on me here. The more Zhao Cheng spoke, the angrier he became. He always felt that Li Feng was taking advantage of the opportunity to play tricks on him. Seeing that he misunderstood, Li Feng opened his mouth to explain. At this time, Shudongni said in a deep voice, "Zhao Cheng, listen to what you said, are you talking like a human being? Why would Fengzi play tricks on you out of boredom? Fengzi was so kind as to prepare so many medicinal herbs for you. It would be fine if you didn't feel grateful, but you actually slandered him." Zhao Cheng still refused to believe it. "It's obvious that those things are not for human consumption. Forget about curing my illness if I eat these things. I'll be lucky if I don't die from the poison." At this point, Zhao Cheng looked at Li Feng and Shudongni suspiciously, wondering if the two of them were deliberately conspiring to poison him. Shudongni must have taken a fancy to Li Feng. After Zhao Cheng is poisoned to death, she can then follow Li Feng openly. Even Zhao Cheng's family's yard and savings would fall into the hands of the two of them. Recalling Shudongni's excessive concern for Li Feng yesterday, Zhao Cheng became more certain of this guess, and the look in his eyes when he looked at Li Feng became more unfriendly. "Li Feng, I don't need you to treat my illness anymore. I don't need you to lend me sperm anymore. But you have to keep it a secret. If this gets out, I will never forgive you." As soon as Zhao Cheng said this, Li Feng and Shudongni were both shocked, not knowing what was wrong with him. "Zhao Cheng, what nonsense are you talking about? Don't you want the child anymore?" Shudongni said angrily. Zhao Cheng sneered, "We'll talk about having a child later. Anyway, I don't need Li Feng to treat my illness. Li Feng, get out. Get out now." Li Feng frowned. He couldn't understand why Zhao Cheng suddenly became like a different person. But since the other party said so, he naturally wouldn't stay. Li Feng packed up the herbs and left without saying a word. Shudoni wanted to see him off, but was stopped by Zhao Cheng. Don't send him off. I can tell from the looks of it that he has no good intentions. He actually wants me to eat poisonous snakes and scorpions. And he wants me to drink stinky water. Don't even think about it. Shudoni was so angry that her hands were shaking. She simply went back to the room and ignored Zhao Cheng. Li Feng returned home with an unhappy face. Thinking of Zhao Cheng's expression just now, he felt like he had eaten a fly. Damn it. It seems like I can't be a good person anymore. Not only did I have to work for a whole morning, but I also spent $200 on it. Li Feng was so angry that he wanted to throw away the herbs and brine. But then I thought that these things were hard-earned and it would be a pity to throw them away, so I just put them in the utility room. A night passed, and on the next morning, Li Feng finished his meal and was preparing to clean up. Suddenly, there was the sound of gongs and drums outside. Li Feng was a little surprised. Could it be that someone in the village had a happy event? When he walked outside, he realized that the person beating the drums and gongs was none other than Uncle Nyo, whom he hadn't seen for 2 days. Uncle Nyo was beating the gong with one hand and the drum in front of him with the other, with Aunt Nyo following behind him, looking a little embarrassed. Aunt Nyo is 7 or 8 years younger than Uncle Nyo. Although she is not a beauty, she still looks quite charming. The couple attracted a lot of villagers to watch along their way. When they arrived at Li Feng's house, Uncle Nyo's eyes suddenly lit up when he saw Li Feng. Li Feng! Miracle Doctor! Miracle Doctor! Hearing his words, the villagers present looked at each other in bewilderment. When did Li Feng become a miracle doctor? Chapter 24. Although Li Feng once saved Hu Yanmei's daughter Li Yeye, the villagers thought that he saved Li Yeye by sucking out the poisonous blood from her wound. No one thought of Li Feng as a miracle doctor. Hu Yanmei did help promote Li Feng, but few people believed it. Now when the villagers heard Uncle Nyo calling Li Feng a miracle doctor, they were all very surprised. Uncle Nyo, you said Li Feng is a miracle doctor. Are you just kidding? A young man couldn't help asking. Hearing this, Uncle Nyo glared at him and said, who told you I was joking? Fengzi is a miracle doctor. He cured my unspeakable illness and helped me regain my masculinity. Everyone was suddenly in an uproar. Uncle Nyo was actually not good at that. However, most people are not surprised by this. In fact, it has long been no secret that Uncle Nyo is not good in that aspect. Aunt Nyo was his young and pretty wife who he married for the second time. She was 7 or 8 years younger than him. There was such a huge age gap between them, and Uncle Nyo was in poor health, so naturally he couldn't satisfy Aunt Nyo. For this reason, he took a lot of kidney tonifying and yang-enhancing medicines, but the effect was not obvious. This matter has spread throughout the village a long time ago. Not only that, there are few old perverts in the village who see that Uncle Nyo cannot satisfy Aunt Nyo, so they often hang around Aunt Nyo for no reason, obviously looking for opportunities to cuckold Uncle Nyo. What the villagers didn't expect was that Uncle Nyo's illness was actually cured by Li Feng. Could it be that Li Feng is really a miracle doctor? Uncle Nyo proudly put his arm around Aunt Nyo's waist and said, I've only taken 2 doses of medicine prescribed by Fengzi, and now I'm already full of energy. I'm sure I'll be in better shape in the future. Our relationship will also be better. Don't try to sow discord between us in the future. The last sentence is obviously a warning to those old perverts who want to tease Aunt Nyo. Aunt Nyo was a little shy, but the joy on her face was visible to the naked eye. Obviously what Uncle Nyo said is true. Uncle Nyo, congratulations. You two will definitely live a happier life from now on. Congratulations, Brother Nyo. Come to my house for a drink someday when you have time. Uncle Nyo, no wonder you seem to be more energetic these past 2 days than before, it seems like you must have taken some good medicine. Everyone congratulated him and Uncle Nyo was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling. But he did not forget who brought him all this, and he pushed everyone aside and came to Li Feng. Fengzi, if you hadn't treated me, how could my secret illness have been cured? You are simply the miracle doctor of our Pingshui village. As he said this, he took the red envelope and banner that had been prepared long ago from Aunt Nyo. This is a red envelope of 10,000 yuan, and a silk banner I customized especially for you, Fengzi. Uncle Nyo opened the banner, on which was clearly written the words, Hua Tuo was alive, bringing people back to life with his miraculous hands. Fengzi, thank you for curing your Uncle Nyo. If you need any help in the future, just tell your Uncle Nyo. Aunt Nyo said with a smile. Li Feng smiled and nodded. Okay, auntie, I will definitely trouble Uncle Nyo if you need me. The onlookers couldn't help showing envy when seeing this scene. This is $10,000. Farmers work hard on the farm all year round, but how much money can they earn in the end? You can only earn 1,800 yuan per acre of land. On the other hand, Li Feng earned tens of thousands of dollars just by curing Uncle Nyo's unspeakable secret. It turns out that people with a special skill find it easier to make money. Chapter 25. This Li Feng is indeed a top student. Even though he has been a fool for 2 years, he is still so amazing. That's right. I only make 70 or 80 yuan a day doing odd jobs in town, but he has almost made as much as I have been working for half a year. Didn't Li Feng graduate from university? I heard that he didn't even get a diploma, and has never been a doctor. How come his medical skills are so great? Who knows? Look at Ren Chao. He was a doctor, but do you think he can trust his medical skills? A top student is a top student, even if he hasn't graduated yet. The onlookers were talking about the situation at once, and Ren Chao in the crowd just happened to hear some villagers talking about him. Hearing their words, Ren Chao's face was filled with anger, but he did not dare to get angry at the villagers who were talking. He could only glare fiercely at Li Feng in the middle of the crowd. Ren Chao hated Li Feng in his heart. If Li Feng hadn't interfered, he would have recommended the quick-acting aphrodisiac to Uncle Nyo long ago. How would Uncle Nyo know what hormone drugs are? Afterwards, when he finds out that it has worked, he might happily run to give Ren Chao money and a banner like he did today. Thinking of this, Ren Chao's eyes were filled with resentment, and he believed that Li Feng had robbed him of his wealth. But he didn't expect that if Uncle Nyo took his quick-acting aphrodisiac and damaged his body, he would be furious and want to kill him. After looking at Li Feng with resentment again, Ren Chao turned around and left angrily. At the same time, in the yard next to Li Feng's house, Zhao Cheng was completely dumbfounded. Although he didn't go out, he could hear everything outside clearly. When Zhao Cheng learned that Li Feng had actually cured Uncle Nyo's unspeakable secret, he was stunned on the spot. He thought that Li Feng was just bragging and had never even been a doctor, so he must have no ability. But no one expected that Li Feng's ability was not exaggerated, but real. What should Zhao Cheng do now? He had just offended Li Feng yesterday and even kicked Li Feng out of the house. Even if he took the initiative to come to Li Feng and ask him to treat his illness, Li Feng probably wouldn't agree, right? Shudongni, who was sitting on a stool nearby and eating melon seeds, sneered, Zhao Cheng, are you dumbfounded? You took my kindness for granted. Fengzi had a hard time getting you the herbs, but you suspected he was trying to poison you. Do you know how powerful Fengzi is now? Everyone in the village knows that Uncle Nyo is not good at that. Fengzi gave him 2 doses of medicine and he was full of energy. You don't even believe in such a miracle doctor. Are you just doing stupid things? At the end of her speech, Shudongni spat a mouthful of melon seed shells on the ground with disdain. Faced with Shudongni's sneer, Zhao Cheng did not refute, but squatted on the ground with his head in his hands. He regrets it now. After a while, Li Feng saw Uncle Nyo and Aunt Nyo off, and the onlookers also dispersed. Li Feng returned to their house with the banner and red envelope. When he was thinking about where to hang the banner, he heard Zhao Cheng's voice outside. Fengzi? Is Fengzi at home? Li Feng turned his head and saw Zhao Cheng walking and carrying a box of milk and a box of roast chicken. Seeing that the person coming was Zhao Cheng, Li Feng understood the whole story after a little thought. It was probably because Zhao Cheng learned that Li Feng cured Uncle Nyo's unspeakable secret that he realized that Li Feng had real skills, so he came to seek medical treatment. Li Feng couldn't help but sneer. This guy Zhao Cheng really needed people to move forward, not backward. But there is no such good thing in this world. Yesterday, Zhao Cheng suspected that Li Feng wanted to poison him with medicinal herbs, but today he took the initiative to seek medical treatment. Don't even think about it. Chapter 26. Li Feng walked into the yard and said in a cold tone. Who was it? It turned out to be Brother Cheng. Brother Cheng, you are honored to visit my humble home. I wonder if you have any advice for me. Zhao Cheng knew that Li Feng was angry, so he quickly smiled apologetically. Fengzi, I'm here to apologize to you for what happened yesterday. Yesterday, Cheng Ji said some stupid things in a fit of impulse. Fengzi, please don't take it to heart. Li Feng sneered, Zhao Cheng, let's not beat around the bush. You treated me as a quack yesterday and said I wanted to poison you. Now you want me to treat you again? No way. After saying that, he turned around and walked into their house. Seeing this, Zhao Cheng became anxious and hurried forward to stop him. Fengzi, this is all my fault. You can beat me or scold me if you want. As long as you are willing to treat me, I will agree to any conditions you ask. Li Feng was still too lazy to pay attention to him, so he pushed him away and went back to their house. Unexpectedly, Shudoni's voice rang out from not far behind him. Fengzi, please forgive him this time. Li Feng stopped. Zhao Cheng is not a good person, and his relationship with Li Feng is average, but his wife Shudoni is pretty good. When Li Feng was still a fool, Shudoni had helped him more or less. Considering Shudoni's happiness in the rest of her life, Li Feng finally turned around again, and happened to meet Shudoni's eyes. Shudoni looked at Li Feng with a smile. At first, Zhao Cheng asked her to come along, but she refused. After thinking about it, I decided to come over and persuade Li Feng together. If Li Feng refused to treat Zhao Cheng, the relationship between the two families would definitely become strained, and she would not be able to have too much contact with Li Feng. It would be better to persuade Li Feng to treat Zhao Cheng, so that Shudoni can contact Li Feng openly in the future. More importantly, Zhao Cheng was born with low sperm motility. Even if he was cured by Li Feng, it would be difficult for Shudoni to get pregnant. At that time, Shudoni can also ask Li Feng to borrow seeds. It's like killing two birds with one stone. So Shudoni followed. Fengzi, your brother Cheng was wrong yesterday. I scolded him afterwards. He knows he regrets it and wants to ask you to continue treating him. Shudoni said with a smile. As for the cost of treatment, you don't have to worry about it. Didn't Uncle Nyo give you 10,000? I'll ask Brother Cheng to give 30,000. I'll ask him to go to the town bank and withdraw 10,000 yuan for you later, and give you another 20,000 yuan after you're cured. When Zhao Cheng heard Shudoni say that she would pay 30,000 yuan for the medical fee, his eyes almost popped out. His family is not as rich as Uncle Nyo, and the family savings are only about 70,000 or 80,000 yuan. Zhao Ben instinctively wanted to bargain, but Shudoni glared at him fiercely. Only then did he wake up from his dream. If Li Feng can cure his disease, let alone 30,000, even 100,000 would be worth it. What is the point of having a lot of savings if you can't cure your illness or have a baby? Zhao Cheng quickly agreed. Fengzi, just do as your sister-in-law said. I'll give you 10,000 first, and then 20,000 when you're cured. Seeing that both of them said so, Li Feng pondered for a moment and agreed. Okay. I can promise to continue treating Brother Cheng, but this is the first and last time. As the saying goes, if you doubt a person, don't employ him. If you doubt my medical skills and ethics again next time, I'm sorry, even if you pay me more, I won't treat Brother Cheng. Li Feng's tone revealed an unquestionable tone. Chapter 27. The reason why he was so angry was not just because Zhao Cheng did not trust his medical skills. What is more important is that Zhao Cheng actually suspected that Li Feng wanted to poison him. For a doctor, this is simply the greatest insult. Traditional Chinese medicine is a profession that cures diseases and saves lives. If someone uses his profession to poison patients, he is not worthy of being called a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. Zhao Cheng nodded hurriedly. Fengzi, don't worry. I will never question you again. If I question your medical skills and medical ethics again, let me be struck by lightning. After getting Zhao Cheng's personal guarantee, Li Feng nodded. Very good. Put your things down. I'll get you the medicine when you get the deposit. Zhao Cheng put the things at the door and left with a smile. After he left Li Feng's house, thinking back on what had happened in the past 2 days, he really wanted to slap himself in the face. Li Feng had promised to treat him for free, but he did not trust Li Feng. Now, the treatment costs 30,000 yuan. Zhao Cheng returned home with a bitter face, preparing to go to the town to get money for Li Feng, but he didn't notice that his wife Shudoni was still staying at Li Feng's house. In the yard, Li Feng saw that Shudoni had not left yet, and asked her in confusion. Sister-in-law Dong Ni, why don't you go back with Brother Cheng? Shudoni rolled her eyes at him and said, Fengzi, you must not forget our promise. Li Feng was stunned. What promise? Have you forgotten just now? You made an agreement with me that after you cure Zhao Cheng, if he still can't make me pregnant, you will have to personally help me get pregnant. Shudoni's expression was serious. Li Feng was stunned. When did I make an appointment with you? I didn't say anything at that time. Then I don't care. Anyway, if I can't get pregnant, you will be responsible, Shudoni said, pinching her slender waist. Without waiting for Li Feng's response, she turned around and walked away, twisting her hips. Shudoni's butt is the sexiest part of her body. It is round and firm, and looks very nice to touch. Li Feng touched his nose, and ripples appeared in his heart. If Zhao Cheng really was born with low sperm count or even azoospermia, does he have to personally help Shudoni get pregnant? Thinking of that beautiful scene, Li Feng suddenly felt his nose itchy and he pinched his nose hastily for fear of a nosebleed. A man as hot-blooded as him can't stand the slightest stimulation. It seems that after I save up some money, I will have to consider finding a partner. Zhao Cheng was very efficient and returned from the town in less than an hour with an envelope containing 10,000 yuan in his hand. He handed the envelope to Li Feng reluctantly. "Fengzi, here is 10,000 yuan. Just treat my illness. If you can cure my illness, I will give you another 20,000 yuan. Li Feng opened the envelope and looked at the thick stack of $100 bills inside. He couldn't help but smile. It turns out that you still need to have a skill. In just a few days, he earned 20,000 yuan from his medical skills. If the income from working as a specially hired Chinese medicine practitioner for the town's Chinese medicine store is included, Li Feng earned a full 40,000 yuan. Li Feng put the money in his pocket with satisfaction and pointed to the medicinal materials prepared on the stone table in the yard. "This is the medicine I prescribed for you. Take it home and boil it over low heat. Boil 3 bowls of medicine into 1 bowl of water. Take it once every evening for 7 consecutive days. Remember, even if the treatment is effective, you must not have sex. Don't even think about it. Otherwise, it will seriously affect the treatment effect. In about 3 to 5 days, you will see obvious results. After 7 days, you will be completely recovered."